Good sticks, everyone. Welcome to the Captain Avalanche Fancast, your unofficial source for all things Colorado Avalanche hockey and more from a fan perspective. Hosted by me, Captain Avalanche Corey, and the Sharks have officially been eliminated from playoff contention, Dom. Now, we're no insiders. We're not inside the locker room face-to-face with our favorite players, but we hope to create a relatable and welcoming environment because we're just like all of you listening, fans. Fans with a deep passion for the game of hockey and, in this case, the Colorado Avalanche. That's how I'm feeling at this current moment in time. You know, as I was preparing this episode, I felt so good. I had like some cool micro stat lines and things about the Avalanche's play recently to talk about. And, you know, they didn't play bad. It's just all ruined now because they lost. I'm in pain.
I can hear it. I'm sure everyone else can hear it.
You know, I'm just going to skip ahead. Fuck it. I had an order. No order. We're going to talk about tonight's game that I made the mistake of watching before we recorded, but it was at 5 o'clock. I was like, 5 o'clock game. We'll be ready to record by 7:38. The Avalanche, at the very least, should have gone to overtime in this game. And you know what? Before I go any further, I want to give credit. The Toronto Maple Leafs are a much better team this year. Craig Berube has turned them into a defensive powerhouse, and their goaltending tandem of Wool and Stolars is one of the best in the league. They are great. Not to mention, Mitch Marner and Austin Matthews are both actually really great two-way players. They are defensively sound, and I'm sure working with Craig Berube has made it even better for them. So credit where credit is due. The Leafs are a strong defensive team, and they also have the powerhouses to score when they want to. The Leafs are a good team. However, at the beginning of the second period, the Leafs scored on their power play, which is really funny because I type in my notes, I go, I believe in our penalty killers. I'm going to hesitate, because I was going to say I hesitantly believe in our penalty killers, but I said, no, I believe in them in Blackwood. And the moment I typed it, the Leafs scored on the power play off of Devon Taves' stick, who was trying to block the pass to Nyes in front of the net. So pretty much every goal that's going in on the Avalanche is literally just due to shitty fucking luck. Not because other teams are actually scoring on them. And then the Avalanche get Then the Avalanche get a power play of their own, and they replicate this play that they have done over and over now. It just keeps working, so why stop doing it? Where Nathan MacKinnon sets up on the side and just throws it to Nichushkin in the bumper slot in the middle and just absolutely bangs it home. It has worked multiple times, and it's magic that it keeps working. So they tied it up immediately. What were you going to say, Dom?
I was going to say, does that qualify as an announcer jinx that you were writing that, and now that we are commentating in this podcast? Like, I got to wonder, maybe this is a poll for the fans, but, you know, like, there's all that superstition out there in the world.
I don't
where does the line start?
I don't know. Fuck, dude. I was like, maybe I should have just thought it. That feels like such horse shit. I can't even write it. I don't believe it. I don't believe it for a damn second.
I agree. It sounds like horse shit, and so I'm just posting it out there to be like to be an asshole, I guess, and just ask the question that maybe neither of us want the answer to.
I don't know, Dom. I don't have a good answer to you. But skipping ahead through every other thing that I said about this game, which we'll dive more into Toronto, I think, after. We'll dive back into this game because it was still a great game by the Avalanche. Really, every game since trade deadline has been. But, Dom, I'm sure there's a few referees whose names you know, just because they're a bit more, I guess, not important, but like they have a lot of longevity in the refereeing sphere. And so you hear their names more often. They're the guys who are reffing the Stanley Cup games and things like that, right? Well, tonight, one of the referees was Kelly Sutherland. Do you know Kelly Sutherland, Dom? Is that a name that rings a bit of a bell to you, similar to like Wes McCauley?
I do know the name Kelly Sutherland, and since you mentioned him, just really quickly, because I know we're about to go slightly negative, can we just say how Wes McCauley is like one of the greatest things to ever happen to hockey ever? And if you are a new fan who does not understand or know that name, please just go to YouTube and enjoy the comedy and the just casual fun that Wes McCauley has out there as a referee. Just such a pure person, such a pure referee. That is the type of referee we need. Anyway, back to you, Corey.
Well, in terms of character, yes. In terms of his calls as of this year, he has reffed a lot of Avalanche games and he has been awful. So much as I love Wes McCauley's fun way of making calls, he's not made good ones this year, in my humble opinion.
Unfortunate.
I know, but I agree with Dom. Go watch Wes McCauley. But anyway, the Avalanche are on the power play with the chance to get the go-ahead goal in the second period. Well, the Leafs killers clear the puck down the ice. And it's a bit of a floater down to the other end. Nothing atypical than what happens during any other penalty kill for a team. They throw it down ice, and yet, for some reason, Kelly Sutherland finds himself skating directly into the path of the puck. He toe picks and falls and blocks the puck from getting down to the end of the ice. You would think this would result in a positive for the Avs, who could quickly grab it and turn it back up ice, but no. The Leafs killers, who were obviously further back, raced to the puck that had stopped off of Kelly Sutherland, grab it, and score a shorthanded goal that no one was ready for because it went off of a falling referee.
Wow.
I don't even want to call it a fucking goober goal because it's just stupid. I think the rule, even if our team has benefited from it before, that the referee is a part of the playing surface is bullshit. They're a moving target, and it's their job to be out of the way. So if it hits them and it affects the play in such a drastic way, that's horseshit. Because it not only has happened to the Avs once, but twice in the last 2 games. 2 different teams have gotten goals off of the Avalanche because the ref couldn't get his fucking ass out of the way. This is worse because he somehow fell into the puck. He wasn't anywhere near it, and he fell. What are you doing? That was the winning goal.
Ugh. Talk about a goober zebra. Jesus.
The game winner. I texted people. I was like, if this is how the game ends, that's unforgivable. Because Joseph Wall had an excellent performance. He stopped over 40 shots. The Avalanche got goalied and lost because the fucking zebra fell into the puck. Steve Dangle's shouting in victory. This is ass. The Avalanche had a 9-game point streak, and I got to talk about it, and it's ruined. The prep work is ruined, and they have to play the Sens tomorrow. Whoever said the Avalanche had the 3rd easiest schedule going into the playoffs is full of shit. I don't know who you are, but fuck you. You're not a red shit. You suck.
Well, let's just say this. I pity the Senators because this Avalanche team is going to come out there with fury. All those goals that they got goalied on. Let's see. Who would be starting in net? Maybe Ullmark? All due respect to Linus Ullmark, and he's had a great year. I just think the power of the Avs offense, especially after getting goalied like that, I wouldn't want to be the team who has to play them after that type of... to lose in that fashion, like you just said. And, I believe Brady Tkachuk is out injured, so that does help your odds.
And here's the problem. The Avs got a high shot volume towards Joseph Woll, but I just ultimately don't feel like there was as many quality chances that they generated with an actual risk of getting past him. It's great that they were dominating in the ozone, getting things on the net. It just didn't feel like any of them were as dangerous as they could have been to go ahead and get that go-ahead goal. So unfortunately, no comeback magic tonight. A stat line that was pointed out is Joseph Wool is the only goaltender to not allow a goal in the final 5 minutes of the third period and in overtime. So impressive stat line by the young netminder. I no ill will towards him. I'm pissed that he stopped all of our 40 fucking shots, but except for one, obviously. But, you know, that is the brutal nature about sports. And I'm not disappointed in this Avalanche team. I'm disappointed in the game of hockey in general. If I could, and if I was named Kyle, I would have broken everything in my house like Shaq after Kobe won his 5th championship. Yeah, that's right. I know basketball stuff. But I obviously refrained. I may or may not have kicked a bag full of empty cans. That made me feel a little better. But I don't want anybody to get the wrong idea like I'm some sort of like a wall puncher. I would never punch a fucking hole in my drywall. I want to make that very clear. I am very passionate about my team and my sport. I will never like hurt somebody or myself because I am upset. I'll yell about it. That much is clear, but I do want to make it evident that I am not. I joke about breaking stuff, but I'm not actually going to do that.
That's the difference between passion and rage, and you're on the right side of that line. Although I have to say, with all the demo that had been going on at your house, if only that had a time right now where you could channel that energy into a constructive manner, I'm sure you could have gotten a lot done.
Yeah, well, thankfully the demo did not ultimately end up being my responsibility, and I have to take off my pants.
Huh? Okay, then. I mean, you do you, my guy.
Oh, God. I can't get them off. Ah! Okay. Good. Pants are now
come off.
The pants are now off. Nobody questioned that. No, it's because I was hot. I'm hot. When I get mad, I get hot. And it's easier
one could say your blood is boiling.
Yes, easier to remove the bottom layer than the top layer with the headphones on. So just went with that. But dialing it back for a moment, we have made it to 25 episodes on the season. That is a quarter of the way to 100, which I think is pretty cool. And we are now actually, well, what day did the playoffs actually start? I think April 9th, they said. Or sorry, not April 9th. No. Wait. Where am I? Not April 9th. What am I talking about? What day did playoffs start? No, 19th. I think it's April 19th. So yeah, officially.
I was going to say the regular season ends on either the 16th or 17th.
We're officially a month out as of today from the playoffs, and you can all expect us to continue to bring content through each round, regardless of how far the Avalanche make it. Obviously, our episodes will shorten greatly the further along we go. Round 1, easy. We'll probably still be hitting the hour and a half, 2 hour mark, because I mean, there's still 8 games going on between 16 different teams. So lots to talk about in round 1. And admittedly, round 1, I think, is easily one of the most exciting rounds in the playoffs, just because there's so much going on at that time.
Most crazy series often happen there at the start. Yes. You'll see some sweeps and really have those contenders start to separate themselves, and then other times you will see 2 heavyweights going at it in a 7-game bout it gears up. The second round often is a bit of a lull because a lot of the teams are recovering from licking their wounds from just a brutal first round. That is, the most injuries are picked up in the first round because just the intensity is taken up not just a notch, but like 10 notches. And everybody's playing through injury the longer the playoffs go on, because everybody wants to be out there for every minute and do their part and just be part of that game, be part of the moment. And so the first round, when everyone's going full speed and there's more teams, more players out there, there's just going to be more injuries. And then again, sometimes the impact of that is felt in the second round. There are people who say, whoever gets the winner of Avs Dallas, put them on into the into the West Final because those two teams are just going to beat each other to a pulp. I disagree. They're not the most physical teams compared to other teams around the league, but there is that type of notion that is not necessarily incorrect or on a basic principle.
Yeah, and obviously, the fewer teams there are, the less there is to cover. And, I don't want to be like a bad essay and just stuff an episode full of fluff. Of course, there's plenty of segments that Dom and I have kind of in the back burner that we haven't gotten to do that we might consider doing at that time. But also, you really want the focus at that time to be on the playoffs, analyzing and reporting on the teams who are competing for hockey's ultimate prize. And then we'll see where we kind of go from there. But just wanted to celebrate the fact that we have made it to 25 episodes. And I think that's pretty neato.
Quarter century there. I mean, hell, I celebrated 25 not too long ago, 25 episodes. What a great time to be alive, Corey. All of it happening in 2025. Like, what is this? This is just... this is some, like, as Paige would put it, this is some angel number shit going on.
Seriously. So if we count up our weeks here, we will have 1, 2, 3, 4 more episodes up through the end of this season, and we'll have one on that comes out April 17th, so that'll be kind of our precursor to the playoffs. I think for that we'll rank all of our or not rank, but talk about each of the first round series and everything like that. But we're getting too far ahead of ourselves. Let's jump into some game action. I got game notes for you. Dom has other fun stuff for you today because as we may have mentioned, as you may have heard, as Dom already knows, the Sharks have, not that it was ever a mystery, but have officially been eliminated from playoff contention. I'm very sorry, Tom.
It's okay. Like you said, it is not unexpected, but the vibes are high in San Jose. Yes. And honestly, I'm feeling so much better this year. Not only did we make it an extra 4 days compared to the actual day of the month of March when we got knocked out of the league chances of the playoffs. So that's a win. We had an additional 6 points on the season by then. We are here getting close. We are 2 wins away from hitting the 20-win mark on the season, which those who've been listening to us the whole time, that was honestly my realistic goal of the season. And while Bedard is depressed and Chicago is honestly crumbling a little bit, including losing to San Jose, which I talked a little bit about last night, I'll recap a little bit again tonight. The Sharks are having a grand old time. If you haven't had a chance to go on Instagram or go on YouTube or anything like that, just go take a look at the Sharks page and see all the fun that they were having on their media day with a little, it looks like a children's size 4-wheeler on the ice. It was quite the time. It looked like a lot of fun. In particular, Delandria, Celebrini were having their time. Even SJ Sharkey, the mascot, was out there just having a ball. So, everybody can see that the team is starting to turn that corner. We talked about it at the trade deadline. The selling era, it feels like it is coming to an end. It might not be entirely over, but the actual building era, the blocks are there. The core is starting to come together in a really tangible fashion. And of course, when you have Calder Brini, yes, give him the Calder, everyone, and I will tell you why a bit later once we're in the tank, because this kid is insane and he deserves it. And spoiler alert, for those who didn't know, I made an impromptu power rankings because it might take me a month and a half normally in between power rankings, but a lot has happened in the last 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks. So needed to update those significantly. And spoiler, the Sharks are not in 32nd place despite being the first team eliminated. Call me crazy, call me biased, I will tell you why.
Well, and we'll get there. All this is to say that Dom doesn't have as many game notes to talk about anymore. And correct me if I'm wrong, Dom, probably won't have as much game notes through the end of this season.
Yeah, I think this week in particular, there were only 2 games to cover, so that even reduced my game notes further. Looking ahead, the Sharks host the Canes, the Bruins,
Oh my God.
before we next record. So that's another only 2 games.
Hmm.
And in general, the story, as you've put it, is going to be a little bit of the same from what all of you have heard. So maybe I'll try to highlight the positives, but I'm going to keep trying to bring you some fun ideas, or maybe even update these power rankings weekly and bring that as a focus of conversation, specifically in that wild card race, to keep everyone updated on where we're at in that state of the league as we get down to the last month of the season.
And I don't disagree with that idea, but that makes me think not a lot of you comment out there. In fact, none of you comment, but I know at least 20 to 30 of you are listening every episode. So tell us what you want to know. Tell us what you want to hear. Dom's probably going to have some free time because it sounds like his team just for some reason isn't playing. So he is now going to get the opportunity to make some fun new segments. So tell us what you want. Tell us what you want to hear. We'll be happy to try and put something together for you. What do you think, Dom?
I would love that. Yeah, give me a research project over here. Don't let my ADHD get bored. Like I got work, I got my own life, but I look forward to this time we spend each week, and I love spending the time to do the research and bring something good and enjoyable that I hope you guys can learn from and get some value out of. So the most value I can bring to you is if you tell me what you want to hear and tell us. We always want to know, and even if we don't get to it right away, or if you guys start to add more comments, then in the future we can continue to build these things as things die down in the playoffs. If you have random tangents, random research projects, this thing you want to know, I can spend a decent amount of time and then bring it to you even then in the playoffs. Like, please give us something more so that we can build and grow and develop and bring you content that you want to hear.
Couldn't have said it better myself, sir. Oh no, it sounded like I had food in my mouth there. Maybe because I had a little mini Oreo. Mom's gonna yell at me for that one.
Wait, time out real quick. At my work, so March Madness brackets. The tournament starts tomorrow. I do a family group because I'm insane and I just
do
love
I still have
sports in
time
general.
to make mine? I haven't. Do I still have time? Or is it closed?
You need to have it like finished by 10 a.m. tomorrow morning.
Okay.
So I would make that tonight probably. Anyway, my work decided today, and I spent an hour not only helping seed a bracket, but actually building it out and printing it for everyone in the office. Yes, everyone, my work is doing a March Madness bracket, but no, this is not a basketball bracket. This is the top 16 Oreo flavors. So everyone is going to have the opportunity to create a bracket of what Oreo flavors they think are going to win, just like March Madness, and are going to submit those brackets. And then we're going to do it in April. So it's not quite March Madness, but for the first week of April, everybody is going to taste those 2 different types of Oreos in each matchup in the first round and pick one and vote for them. And we are going to move the Oreos on until there's only one champion. And come April 7th, I will be able to tell you definitively which Oreo is the 2025 champion. Corey, I will send you a picture of the bracket. I feel like you will be able to appreciate this.
First of all, did not even know that there were 16 flavors of Oreos to be judged. Second of all,
there's like even more. It's crazy.
Second of all, my prediction is that the classic will win. Nothing beats classic cookies and cream Oreo. Nothing. So that's my prediction. Don't even need to fill out the rest of the bracket. You heard it here first, everybody. Classic Oreo is going to win.
Well, Classic Oreo is, out of the 16 teams, the number 2 overall seed, though they might receive some competition from the number 1 Double Stuff, the number 3 seeded Mint, and the number 4 Golden Oreo are all still there as well.
Well, I didn't know Double Stuff was counted as a fucking separate flavor.
Well, so it wasn't separate flavor because some of them, like the mint ones, are typically thin. There's also, I didn't know this existed, but there's Post Malone. He has his own Oreos. Like, look it up. It's freaking weird. There's also Irish cream, tiramisu, loaded ones, which are basically just cookies and cream flavoring rather than vanilla inside of the regular chocolate Oreo. So I think that one's a sleeper, like a secret contender. There's multiple variants of peanut butter. There's maple. There's lemon. There's the mega stuff, which, because double stuff technically is actually only 1.4 times stuffing. So mega stuff is actually the true double stuff, but they don't want you to know that. It's crazy. I know too much about Oreos now just from this hour spent on this today.
That's insane.
They even have ones with Pop Rocks. They aren't in the bracket, but it's freaking wild.
That sounds kind of gross. I can't lie. I like Pop Rocks.
That's why I didn't make the bracket.
that actually sounds kind of gross. Okay, fine. Then I readjust. I think people are gonna go for double stuff here. I think that's gonna be the winner. Oh, everybody, Dom sent it to me. Hold on, let's take a look here. Because who needs to hear about hockey when we can talk about this? So here's how it's looking, everybody. We have double stuff versus dark chocolate, Post Malone versus birthday cake, loaded versus peanut butter. And I'm sorry, when I see loaded, I just think it's like a loaded mashed potato fucking Oreo.
That's valid. That's totally fair.
Golden versus chocolate peanut butter pie. And then on the other side of the bracket, we have classic versus chocolate, Irish cream versus tiramisu, mega stuff versus lemon, and then mint and maple cream. I need to have some of these because some of these do sound like good. Like, I've always been like a classic double stuff and mega stuff guy, but my mom also likes lemon. Like, that's her favorite flavor of anything. So I've definitely had those too. Some of these other ones look good.
I'm a big mint fan personally, and so there was actually 5 of us who were just asked without knowing. So I hadn't even tried some of these before, just by guessing on how they sounded. 5 of us all ranked these 16 from 1 to 16 for ourselves and what we thought would be best, and then we took the average of those scores and basically combined the rankings of like a neutral poll, including an online ranker from some unknown human out there. So it was external to just the people at my work, so it'd be more independent. And that is how we got to these rankings of 1 through 16. I'm sure there will be upsets. I'm sure double stuff will make the final because I agree. I don't know how that could lose, unless of course it's to mint because I am biased. But it's going to be fun and everyone's just going to enjoy getting to taste these Oreos. We're going to have plenty of milk so that you can have that palate cleanser in between so that the flavors don't cross over. Because can you imagine, we had to split the first round into 2 days, much like the NCAA bracket, because does anyone really want to eat 16 Oreos in one sitting?
Yes.
As adults?
Me. Yes.
Okay, valid. Maybe it's just because I'm small and I just have small stomach. I couldn't do that. So we're gonna be doing 8 per day for those first 2 days. Day 3, after the first round is over, that'll still be 8 Oreos per day, and then it'll start to get smaller and smaller, down to 4 Oreos, and then finally the championship round. We'll be having plenty of Oreos for everyone in the program, or at least within the systems team, to be able to taste and to. Not the idea is everyone's going to make a bracket and then submit those picks before any of the tasting starts, and then everyone is going to taste and pick their favorite head to head between the Oreos, and just will tally the votes so that it is something that they won't see their picks or necessarily remember who they picked to win. So it'll be an unbiased and just honor-based process that it's like, hey, purely when you taste these 2 Oreos against each other, which one is better? And so we will have an Oreo champion and a winner within the company who will get to take home all of the extra Oreos left over that are purchased for this as their prize.
I want to participate. I want to work for your company. I want to win that. Oh my God.
Well, Corey, if I win, I am happy to share the reward with you.
I'll come and have that sleepover much faster. Let me fucking tell you. Oh. Yeah.
Honestly, we should have you come over and record like how we did with the Sharks versus Avs game. Maybe like a first round Avs versus Dallas game. I feel like that'd be a great one that we could bring some great content.
Yeah, that'd be fun. I don't know if I can handle it though. I'm not even gonna lie to you. Like, playoff games send my anxiety to the fucking stratosphere. Like, I never feel so horrified yet so alive than when I am watching playoff hockey, particularly when it is against the Dallas Stars.
And that is totally fair. So maybe we cover something on the entire other half of the bracket. If we get, let's say, Ottawa, Florida, Kachuk brothers go into war, that could be a fun one to cover together. But you know what? This is the perfect opportunity for everyone in the comments to let us know what game they would want us to cover, and then we can do that.
You are so right. Speaking of games to cover, it's somehow been in a half hour and we haven't talked about the Avs. So let's get into the Avalanche here after I finish this Oreo. All right. So, what I didn't talk about last week, even though it had already happened, is the Avalanche versus Minnesota. Now, let's go ahead and jump right into it. This is the only game since the Avalanche lost to St. Louis all the way back in February that the Avalanche actually lost. And they still managed to scrape a point out of it. Besides this hiccup, the Avalanche have, again, this was written before tonight's game, the Avalanche have not lost a game in regulation since February 26th. Otherwise, the Avalanche have a point in every game they have played in the month of March so far. Thanks, Kelly! This game in particular is kind of funny because it didn't really feel like either team was playing poorly. Both Minnesota and the Avs were playing good, solid hockey throughout the course of this contest. Both goalies were dialed in, but to me, it ultimately came down to the guys in front of them. A trend overall with the Avalanche post-trade deadline that you'll notice as I talk about the rest of the games we're covering this week is every line is contributing. But the Avalanche have been playing staggeringly spectacular defensive hockey. Like, I cannot even express properly just how good this Avalanche team has looked defensively, and they are doing so at the right time. None of their lines feel like a liability to have out on the ice, and everyone can take the puck away, turn it up ice, and create chances for themselves. But it really goes beyond that description. I don't have exact numbers for you today, but if you're simply watching Avalanche hockey, you can see it happen. The team is making so few mistakes now, and that is what hockey ultimately is. The team who wins a game is the team who makes the least mistakes and or who capitalizes on their opponent's mistakes the best when they do happen. You can't avoid making mistakes in a professional hockey game. It's going to happen no matter what you do. If every team played their systems perfectly for 60 minutes for 82 games, nothing would ever happen, and it would be the most boring sport in the world. Mistakes are going to happen, guaranteed. But the best part is, even when the Avalanche make mistakes, they now have the goaltending to back them up and bail them out, regardless of whether Blackwood or Wedgwood is in net. But for this game, both teams were just defensive juggernauts in front of their netminders. At the end of the first, the shots were only 5-6 Minnesota, which isn't super stereotypical, or super atypical. Sorry, I misspoke there. Freudian slip. But it just shows how tight and limited the opportunities were to start this contest. Going back to mistakes, though, that's how the first goal of this game was scored, and it was really disappointing. It was a complete misplay by Netchis, and for all his strengths, we have seen this before with this poor pass selection, and I believe he'll continue to get better as he keeps playing with the team and his line mates, but this was an absolute disaster because no one was there to receive the puck in the high slot. And so Minnesota turns around in the Avs D zone for a quick 2-on-0, and they convert. Fuck. Those are the mistakes we're talking about, although this one is much more severe. Not every mistake leads to a goal, but they often lead to shot attempts or quality chances, but this one was simply awful because Minnesota would score no other goals after that. Minnesota needed an opportunity like this because they are, like the Avs were to start the season, injured all to hell. These injuries have hit at the worst possible time for them, as it is most of their top guys like Kirill Kaprizov who are missing. In fact, even tonight against the Kraken, they are missing an additional 5 regulars missing. And that, with them missing, that lack of presence is noticeable for them. So a lapse in concentration like this from Netchis is a gift. I do think the Avs ultimately had the better chances and opportunities at the net. And to Gustafsson's credit, he played well this go-around, which is interesting considering his career averages against the Avs are somewhere, I think, in the 4.5 goals against range, which is not great. Not to mention Nathan MacKinnon is the boogeyman that haunts the dreams of every Minnesota player. Either they are the team he has the most points against in his career, or he is the player with the most points against Minnesota, or both. I'm not sure. But I also didn't feel like the Avs got goalied. I think both teams were just playing solid defensive-minded hockey. Not to mention the Avs hit multiple posts, shifts those an inch to the left or the right, and that's 3 goals right there. It wasn't until about 6 left in the third that the Avs finally broke through with a goober goal! Yeah. Samuel Girard did a spin tornado, then backhanded the puck from the top of the circles in the middle of the zone. Somehow an absolute floater went in, and then it was a stressor, and then it ended up being a stressor if it was even a goal at all, because it nearly seemed that it wasn't going to count as the puck appeared to deflect off of Ross Colton's glove, which I fail to see how that would matter and be counted as a hand pass because you need to actually grab the puck and then drop it to a teammate for it to be a hand pass. The Avs, in fact, challenged a very similar play when a puck deflected off a New York Rangers glove in front of the net and into the goal, and the goal still counted. So I don't see how it would even have mattered if the puck deflected off of Ross Colton's glove, but it didn't, so I digress. What it did deflect off of was Yoel Kiviranta's stick, who is having the best year of his entire career. He is a guy who scores in bunches, so when he's scoring, you can usually rely on him to get a few over the next couple of games. This goal pushed the Avs to the worst overtime that I have ever had the displeasure of witnessing. As we'll discuss with the game against Dallas, when the Avs have the puck in OT, they tend to actually attack and skate downhill to actually try and score and win the fucking game. Minnesota did nothing for almost the entire 5 minutes. They refused to really even try to make a play, and they were pissing their diapers at the idea of losing possession. It was really pathetic, to be honest. The Avs had incredibly limited opportunities and couldn't convert on the 1 or 2 they had. They pretty much held the puck a nut during the entire 5-minute over 3-on-3. This led to a shootout, and for all the strengths that Mackenzie Blackwood has, the shootout is not won. You may recall all the way back when he was still a member of the Sharks, Dom would often lament every time the Sharks would go to a shootout, which was often, because the Sharks could never pull it out. And that was because, well, Mackenzie Blackwood is just not good one-on-one. Not to mention, the Wilds also have several shootout specialists like Matt Zuccarello and admittedly have a good game plan for these situations. Thankfully, there is no shootout in the playoffs. All right.
Thank God for no shootout in the playoffs for a multitude of reasons. But yeah, it'll also help Mackenzie Blackwood look much better, Avs fans.
Yes. Oh, I thought you were gonna have more to say there.
Oh no, I didn't want to interrupt your segment too much. I took us on an Oreo adventure, so I don't want to overdo it.
No, it's fine. I liked the Oreo adventure. If you have anything to say, say it.
I mean, I think you said it. Mackenzie Blackwood is a stellar goaltender, but I said it so many times. He is so good at the game pace. He's faster. He has quick reflexes when it comes to that. When guys are coming in slow, one-on-one, like Mackenzie Blackwood is really good at picking guys through those high danger chances when there's a screen and things like that. Those things that goaltenders struggle with when that really levels the game against when their defense isn't helping them. But on his own, he's just like anybody else trying to go one-on-one. And let's be real, in a shootout, the guys on offense always have the advantage. They're expected to score when they're 1-on-0. It's just not reasonable that we should have that expectation of goalies to always be making the stop just because they are great at game speed. So don't worry, Avs fans. This one was painful, and I'm right there with Corey because trust me, if anybody can empathize, like he said, Sharks fan felt it. But don't have to worry in the playoffs, and thank the Lord that there's no shootout. We get unlimited hockey.
It's always really fun. I love the 5-on-5. You just keep fucking playing. And the longer those go on, all the more devastating it is when you finally either win or lose. Because you win, you're like, oh my God, thank you. We've broken through. You lose, and you're just like, after all of that, after everything we did, all this extra hockey, and then you just cry because you lost a game that went till 1 a.m.
Well, sometimes it even feels like you lost 2 games. We've seen games that go 3 full overtimes. So you literally played 120 minutes of hockey, and then eventually there's a winner in the 4th overtime. Like 2 full games just to lose. Like it is absolutely insane. Don't get me wrong, we don't see that all the time, but even if you go into double overtime, that one full 20-minute overtime period, it feels like a second game in and of itself.
And I mean, let's look at like the Lightning and the Jackets from the playoff bubble a few years ago that went to 6 overtimes. That's nearly 3 full games of hockey. I remember because I missed the entire regular game, and I came in and still got to see 2 games worth of hockey.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I caught the regular game, missed part of the second game in there, but then definitely I caught like the last 2.5 periods. So I missed like half of the fifth and or no, half of the fourth and half of the third overtimes in there. Like I just wasn't able to watch for that like hour and a half. But that is still one of the most insane, but it is also one of like the slowest and most boring games at times just because people get tired. Like these are
Yeah.
human beings.
Yeah.
Like they're gonna get gassed. Guys are gonna slow down. They're not gonna hit as hard
They have
because
to be
everyone
like,
knows it's just a war of attrition. It's about survival.
and I mean, you have to be eating something between the periods because I can only imagine when, since it is a full period, you're still getting 20 minutes in between also. So think about that one, everybody. And you're just going. They have to be like pounding electrolytes or some shit. I would have to
Electrolytes,
imagine.
energy bars. I mean, these are professional athletes who pay so much and they have these whole organizations behind them for their nutrition. So it would not surprise me that they will have things that maybe we don't even know or understand, but work to fuel their bodies.
So yeah, just a quick little side tangent there. We'll move on to the Avalanche versus the Flames in Calgary. For some reason, my notes start here at period 2. Not quite remembering why. I'm sure there's a good reason for it. But really, all period 1 was just testing out each other. However, the Avs then managed to snag the lead off of a floater from Lindgren. And they did a great job screening Wolf. And the Avs, as I hoped, would jump on it a bit more this period. Speaking of Lindgren, his pairing with Manson is brutal. I call it the fuck your bones duo, but I'm going with the shorthanded version of the Bone Crunch the Bone Crunch duo. However, unfortunately, Manson has been injured for, I think, the third or fourth time this season, and he's now expected to miss 3 to 4 weeks, which means he'll probably be injured until playoffs, if not more. Because if I've learned anything about Avalanche injuries this season, it's that they are always longer than what they say. Avalanche give up a breakaway in this period, but Wedgwood came up with a great save. And Wedgwood, as we'll point out over these next couple games, really had to step in because Mackenzie Blackwood fell ill. He was still on the bench, but he felt like shit. And so Jared Bednar made the right call in putting in their backup. And I have to say, the Avalanche have found their next Pavel Francouz. I mean, Wedgwood, I think, besides Dallas, allowed like 3 goals over 3 games. And he beat Dallas, mind you. He beat Jake Ottinger. So he is exactly what you need when your starter is feeling like shit. He's a guy you can reliably put in the net, and you'll know he'll still get it done for you all the same. Blackwood has been exceptional as of late. I mean, he really has been great every time he's stepped onto the ice for the Avalanche. There are very few games that he is won or lost that I could point to and be like, oh, he probably could have been better in that game.
And I mean, sometimes that's just how it goes. You can be, no matter who the goalie is, especially when we get to the playoffs and both goalies are just playing incredible, someone has to lose. And when these games go, when we talk about so many overtimes, someone has to lose. And that's the beauty of just tying it back in a little bit with unlimited overtime hockey with no shootout. Someone has to lose. It has to happen at game speed while the clock is counting down. It is single elimination, sudden death hockey. And I mean, and that's the whole point of the playoffs. And that's why it's the hardest cup to win, the hardest trophy to win. When you have all these great teams, all these great goalies going at it like that, no matter how good they are, only one can climb the mountaintop each year. And that's, I mean, it's beautiful in a way. Corey, I feel like you would agree with that sentiment.
Yeah, and I don't think what some people realize is sometimes you do need both goaltenders. Like, yeah, Connor Hellebuck is amazing, and Eric Comrie, not that he's not great, but I mean, he's not Connor Hellebuck. But look at the Avalanche's 2022 Stanley Cup run. Darcy Kemper only won 10 of the 16 games that the Avalanche had to play to win the Stanley Cup. The other 6 were won by Pavel Francouz because Darcy Kemper took a stick in the fucking eye. It was a freak injury, but it meant that Francouz had to come in and shut the door. And shut the door he did because he helped us sweep the Edmonton Oilers. The Oilers got swept by the backup. So even though Bobrovsky played all 16 games, leading the Panthers to the Stanley Cup win, you just never know when your other guy needs to step in. And that's who Scott Wedgwood is you feel safe and content when he's in the net. You know that your team can still win the game. And I believe that Mackenzie Blackwood's going to do great in these playoffs. But if for whatever reason he doesn't, I fully trust Scott Wedgwood going into that net. And that's why I'm saying we found our new Pavel Francouz. He isn't just the backup. He is the guy that, again, I'd be circumlocuting if I kept saying it. But you get my point here. But
well, yeah, and I think you said Bobrovsky did it on his own. But how much is it just improve your odds? How good does it feel to be able to have a rotation in the playoffs when it is so hard to get rest? When we talk about health, to have that ability, to have that trust, it goes back to other things we talked about the great GM work to replace your old goaltending tandem with one that both guys can start in the playoffs and win. That is, again, an insanely good job, and it's an insanely valuable thing that we don't always see. We didn't see it with Bobrovsky. We don't see it with playoff Vasilevsky. We really don't normally see it with Hellebuck. These guys are going to have to play more games. Oettinger maybe even. So I don't know if it gives the Avalanche an advantage, but I guess I'm saying it can.
Yeah, and I mean, I always think if you have two solid netminders, even if they're not quote-unquote the best netminders, you have a better chance to win. After all, the Avalanche beat Andrei Vasilevsky. We've said it time and time again. He was the best goaltender that year. And throughout that entire stretch that the Lightning had made their 3 Cup final appearances, Vasi was the best goalie. And I mean, he was playing out of his mind, but he got beat. Because there's more factors to winning a championship than just great goaltending. And I mean,
it's a team sport.
Yeah.
One player cannot win by themselves, even if that player is the goalie and playing as good as any goalie ever has in history. It doesn't matter. It's just a numbers game. It's statistics, if nothing else.
Yeah, exactly. Well, going back to the Flames game, we talked about Lindgren, and I mean, he did a great job this game getting pucks down low to the front of the net and helping create chances for guys. And so it really made sense that kind of on I think a pass or a play that he wasn't expecting it to go in, just trying to get it to the net, that he ended up scoring. And I was listening back to one of our old episodes. I said he would surpass the 20-point plateau for the first time in his career. He has done that and more. And it's been really funny to see how people's reactions to Lindgren have changed. And I mean, I think I have more to say about him in the Dallas game as well. Yeah, I know I definitely 100% do. That, you know, originally people were like, I don't know if you re-sign Lindgren. And I mean, I felt the same way. Not that I necessarily didn't believe in him, but just like, it's a situation of if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. You can let him go. But, oh my God. Get it out. Okay.
I mean, it's so let's just say really quick, if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. You can let him go, like you said. But from what you're saying, Corey, it sounds to me like it is working out, and
Yes.
that difference in defending style that we talked about at the deadline that the Avs actually maybe needed, and it was a sneaky need that wasn't like the big thing on everyone's mind, and they filled that role really well, at least for this season, even if it's not for the future.
Exactly. Well, moving right along in this period, I like Nelson. I haven't liked him on the first power play unit because ever since they've injected him into it, all of that consistency that unit has found with the staff on it has failed to convert. And they have taken Nelson off of the top power play unit and put him on the second unit, which I think is a better call because ever since they took him back off the top power play unit, it's been scoring again. So, you know, I appreciate that they're trying to put a guy who's known for scoring goals into your first power play unit. But to me, it's a situation of if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And by injecting Nelson into the first power play unit when it was already starting to really click, I just think that messes it up. So thankfully they have stopped doing that. But overall with Nelson,
Wait. I do have to ask because one, I agree. Don't mess with the chemistry of the top line. All you're doing is improving your second power play unit and making the rest of the league jealous. 2, Who is Nelson? I only know the man known as Big Cock Brock. Come on.
Big Cock Brock, baby. You're right, Dom. What the fuck am I saying? At first, I was like, is this man fucking serious? I was like, what are you talking about, Dom? You're like, I don't know anybody named Nelson. I was like, what are you fucking, what? Like, we talked about him for like 2 hours a couple weeks ago. What do you mean? I see what you mean. But to me, and we will talk about it a bit more when I finish up my thoughts on Toronto, which I don't have too much more to talk about with them, but this Avs team is dangerous. I don't know if that was evident to anybody else, but even if they're not scoring a ton on the game, they're fucking dangerous. And in my opinion, what you need to focus on in these final games of the season is making sure they can play together. Develop that chemistry as much as you can. Set your lines and make sure these guys know where each other are without even looking. That is hilarious because I know I wrote the same comment tonight without even knowing about this comment. So that's hilarious. But speaking of Big Cock Brock, the second line is so fun to watch. And they also paired it multiple times with the Lindgren Manson Bone Crunch pair. It's fucking brutal. They are fantastic puck retrievers with Nelson and Nichushkin on that line. If the puck is dumped in ahead of them, they still manage to find it and get it because they're just so strong. It is simply sensational to watch, which is, and you know what? I'll just inject some of the Toronto game here, which is why it was so frustrating watching the Toronto game tonight because we got Jared Blendnar. He blended up the lines. That one credit to my friend Alex. But Jared Blendnar, and I was not a fan of the decision. Basically, you had your first line was Nelson, McKinnon, Nichushkin. Your second line was Coyle, Netchis, and Lehkonen. Your third line was, who was it? Drury, TV Ronta, and Druin. And then your fourth line was Colton. Oh God, who was the fourth line? Colton, Kelly, and my brain is and O'Connor. It looked weird. I personally don't agree with removing Netchis from McKinnon. I just think they play off of each other's speed way too well for them to be on two different lines. I just think they are meant to play together. Not only that, but I understand that you're trying to have everybody play with everybody, you know, find the chemistries that work. But I honestly think what you've been using, which is top line is McKinnon, Lehkonen, and Netchis. And your second line is Nichushkin, Big Cock Brock, and Druin. Your third line is Nelson, Kiviranta, and I believe Colton, I want to say. And your fourth line is Drury, Kelly, and O'Connor. I like those lines.
I assume you meant Coyle instead of Nelson on the third line.
Yes, I did mean Coyle. I apologize. Thank you for catching me.
No, you're good. I was just double checking.
And
if Nelson was double shifting the second and third lines, I'd be
crazy. No. But I think that is one of the reasons that the Avs also lost to Toronto, is I think Jared Bednar was too stuck in his ways with trying out these new line combinations. And I just want these guys to be set in their lines so they can develop the chemistry with those guys as much as possible. Yes, it's important that you can play with anyone in case injuries happen. I understand that. And McKinnon definitely has that skill. It doesn't matter who you put out there with him. He can play with anybody. But the other lines were working. The team was winning with those other lines. So I don't see any reason to put them in a blender. Obviously, if things aren't happening, yeah, mix it up if it hasn't happened over the last couple of games. But this has been the winning formula. The Avalanche were on a 9-game point streak for a reason. And, you know, I respect Jared Bednar. He doesn't get any recognition for the Jack Adams, even though he should, especially for this season, since the Avs have used the most skaters out of any team, and he has somehow managed to still create a winning record that has the chance to usurp the Dallas Stars for second place, which is incredible. But man, I was not a fan of that decision tonight. I really wasn't. And of course, you know, I know fuck all being a fan on the couch, so just a couch coach, but just my own observation, it clearly wasn't working, and he just refused to change it. And I really think if he would have gone back to, for example, the Nelson, Nichushkin, Druin lineup and put Netchis back with McKinnon, I think they would have had a lot more success. And that third line is also super grindy, and I think they work super well together with the types of players. And I think each player on each line complements each other. Like Nelson and Nichushkin are very similar in their play style, so they complement each other super well. McKinnon and Natchez are super similar in their play style. Hoyle and Colton are super similar in their play style. And Kiviranta, honestly, too. That whole third line really is the same like person. So I just
Well, yeah, you want complementary play styles working together, and the fact that those are different play styles means you're mixing it up on your opponents, making you a harder team to match up against, where they have to get the right lines out at the right time against your guys. Otherwise, it creates a mismatch. And like you said, I would say this: if you're going to blend up lines, do it in a game against a team like San Jose that you should have in the bag, right? And I love my team, but do it against the teams that are struggling so that you can learn and still get the points you need here late in the season. Because you're right, you want that chemistry to build. Do it in practice so you can be there if the worst should happen. But this is the time when I've heard it in every game I'm listening to from every announcer. This is the time where teams are locking in, playoff teams are kicking it up a notch. Every game here on out for the rest of the season might as well be a playoff game because they have to treat it like that to get the mentality right, to get the best seeding possible, to ensure they make it in, especially for the playoff, like the wild card contenders right now. It's, it doesn't necessarily make sense, but I understand he's trying to play chess while everyone else is playing checkers, but maybe there's a smarter game to do that in when you're at less risk of losing to a playoff quality opponent.
Yeah, and I mean, Toronto's a talented team. They gave us a hard time last time, and clearly both teams took lessons from that previous encounter. This one wasn't a barn burner like the other one was. And, like I already said, it was a much more defensive-minded game. And I mean, I don't mind that. I've enjoyed seeing how the Avalanche have played in that regard. And the only reason they lost is simply they got unlucky. It was nobody's fault, and it was a really tightly contested game. But when you need the results, you just cannot afford to continue to mix up your lines separate from what was working. But I have, as the magic word will say, perseverated on this topic for too long. So we will carry on with the poor Calgary game, which I keep going on side tangents about. Cale Makar got a penalty shot, never actually got a shot on goal. It was very disappointing because he definitely could have scored on it because he's Cale fucking Makar. It was from a gorgeous pass by Netchus. He got a hard slash on the hands. With 7:34 left in the second period, the Flames had only 3 shots. That's it. After 30, a little over 30 minutes of hockey, the Flames had managed 3 shots. That is 1 shot every 10 minutes. That is how good the Avalanche have been defensively. In fact, I heard the stat line tonight that the Avalanche are 4th in fewest shots allowed. They've been doing a great job. There was a scary moment in this game, as there have been in literally every game leading up to the end of the season. It is like every game, it feels like someone's about to get injured, and it's horrifying. Somebody, you'll see like Cale Makar go down because he got cross-checked in the fucking face, and you're just like, oh my god, my sweet baby boy, are you okay? And he gets up and he's fine. But it's nerve-wracking because first of all, the Avs need the points because you want home ice advantage and you want to keep ahead of Minnesota. Oh, forgot to bitch about that, by the way. Minnesota scored 3 goals on Seattle in less than like 30 seconds. I'm not even kidding.
Yeah, I saw that it was 3-0 after
it's
one period.
Still 3-0. Let's look at this. They scored their 3 goals at 2:47, 3:59, and 4:29.
And then haven't even come close to hitting the net since, it looks like. I mean, they've had shots on goal, but they haven't hit the net.
Bro, an AHL team could beat the Kraken. They fucking suck.
Hey, guess who's in net tonight?
Grubauer, he's ass. There's a reason he was sent down to the AHL. He's ass.
When you talk about Georgiev not being in the league much longer, I'm kind of amazed that I get it. I mean, but he's 33. Like, how is this guy with a 361 GAA still in the league at 33? He won't be in the league next year.
The fall off of
Grubauer,
it's crazy. The fall off of Grubauer needs to be studied. That dude has 2 Stanley Cups, by the way. No, sorry, 1. He has 1 Stanley Cup. But I mean, a Stanley Cup nonetheless. And I mean, I'm not trying to
cup
make
is the cup.
I'm not trying to make fun of Grubauer, but I mean, it is kind of crazy how bad he fell off after his time with the Avalanche. But we're not here to talk about that. I just wanted to bitch because we need Seattle to win, and they are just failing us miserably. But the reason I talk about the injuries is because McKinnon had some excellent wherewithal because Cale Makar blew a tire and was falling into him, and Nate jumped over him and went into the boards, not hard, but he did collapse into the boards to avoid any knee-on-knee or serious contact. So they managed not to hit each other. They just kind of fell on the ice together. And man, that would have been the most tragic thing of all time if your two superstars collide and injure each other. That I would cry forever and never stop. But what was great about this game really is it was a depth game, right? In the games that the big boys couldn't show up, you need the depth to, and that's exactly really what's been happening as of late. And it was fantastic. Tight game. Parker Kelly pushes through, gets a crucial goal to put the Avs ahead 2-0 late in the second. And frankly, the third and fourth line were on fire against Calgary, no pun intended. However, Calgary started to ramp up in the final 2 minutes and going into the third. It was nearly perfect, but the final few minutes, the Flames had a few too many chances, which they really pushed back in the third, which happened the last time these teams played. They had a wide open net in the first minute, somehow didn't go in. And Riker actually said something I agree with, which does not happen often, that the Avs need to continue to play how they have the first two periods. Winning is imperative. You can catch the Stars if they win tonight and beat the Stars on Sunday. You know, I don't want to quite say keep the foot on the gas, but just maintain good practices that made you successful up to that point. And when the Flames scored their first goal, it was really just perfect bounces that got them there. And Jared Bednar also blended the lines in this game a little bit. After the fact, the Flames were suddenly laying siege in the Avalanche zone. After a period where the Avs really kind of started paying rent in the Flames zone for how much that they were there. And now all of a sudden the Flames turned around and were waylaying the Avalanche's D zone. And they were kind of holding on for dear life, trying not to let them score. But then as I'm writing that down, Parker Kelly comes up again and scores his second of the night to regain a 2-goal lead to calm down the ravenous Flames fans who were attempting to push their team to victory. And I have to give the Flames credit, though. They looked like the Avs were skating circles around them, and suddenly in the third, they just completely changed their game and began to push back hard. And the Avs had to try and get back into it. And for Wolf, being a rookie goaltender, he won't win the Calder, but he definitely deserves, I know, Macklin Celebrini, he deserves some looks because the kid really is kind of willing the Flames to the playoffs. If he gets the Flames to the playoffs, he definitely should get some votes if that's the case. But when the
absolutely. I let me just say this really quick because I know I'm the homer on Celebrini here. Everyone in this competition, this is a true 3-horse race. Lane Hudson is an insane offensive defenseman. That's the thing everybody forgets. He has the most points for rookies and is a defenseman. The only reason I put an asterisk on that is Celebrini played 12, 13 less games than he did and is only 1 or 2 points behind. So that's the asterisk there. But Wolf, it's so hard to compare. It's so hard to compare goalies to offensive players, right? It's
well, you can't. They're two different things. You can't compare them.
And he deserves all the credit. He is the only reason, I feel like you said this, but I have to foot stomp this. The only reason Calgary is in the playoff hunt right now.
Well, yeah, that's why he deserves the trophy. If he got it. Because he is the reason.
It would be earned. I would go on a tangent and a tirade here on the pod a little bit, but you know, I would not disagree that he would have earned it. I'll refuse to believe that Celebrini didn't earn it more because he's just a unicorn. And
honestly, my argument against Celebrini is also, first of all, do you feel like Michkov's out of the race at this point?
Yeah, it's a 3-horse race.
All right. My only argument against Celebrini is last year the Canadians weren't a playoff team. Right now they hold a playoff spot, and Lane Hudson has played no small part in that. as well as the fact that the Flames are also battling for a Western playoff spot, and Wolf is really the reason for that, whereas Celebrini was just the absolute far and away best player on a Sharks team that had no hopes of making the playoffs, but is the reason that they were watchable, right? So it's tough because obviously Celebrini will go on to have a lot of impact going forward in his career, but you can see that impact a bit more tangibly right now with both Hudson and Wolf.
Yeah, and I think that that's a fair argument. I think there's arguments for what each of them tangibly brings, because again, it is a team everywhere that gets to the
Yes.
playoffs. I think
Yes.
Montreal is better across the board,
Yes.
perhaps than what people expected, with their rebuild being maybe moving faster than I think anyone gave them credit for. So it isn't just one player, but you're right. He has the noticeable impact on both sides of the ice. Celebrini is not known for his defense, but for his pure talent. I guess the stats, the fact that some people should say that it hurts his chances that he played less games. I argue the perspective that if he can be at virtually the same stat line with less games, that sets him apart. And you're right. The Sharks are floundering, but the entire vibe, like I said, that this intangible of San Jose, it is miles better than last year, even if the record's not showing it. And maybe we see it more next year, but the Calder can only go in a rookie season. So again, I see the argument for all three players. I am the homer. I've watched so much of Celebrini's game and just the things that I've only seen him be able to do. So I know that my bias is very obvious and present. But oh man, like we're talking a Crosby level talent that Celebrini is, and I guess we're talking Hudson could be a Makar level talent. So how do you compare the two? They all do something different. Like we talk about, it's hard to compare goaltender to offensive guys. Well, it's also hard to compare to a defenseman who just so happens to be also great at offense, kind of like Makar. So I I'm do not envy whoever is on that committee, whoever has a vote in this, because I know no matter what happens, two fan bases are going to be outraged.
Yeah, and I just wanted to play devil's advocate a little bit, get your brain working, thinking about it. But I want to wrap this up because we keep going on side tangents. So yes, we talked about the Flames, but we also talked about a lot of other fun things. Just wanted to point out that the Flames have a good one on their hand. Definitely a goalie star of the future is Dustin Wolf. But
100%. Agreed.
the Flames' second goal of the game was another goober goal. Goober goal. It was a slapper from, if I recall, by Anderson from the blue line. It goes off of Huberdeau's head, jumps over Scott Wedgwood and into the back of the net. Not a chance in hell that you stop that. And that's the whole thing, right? Is the Avalanche have been playing near perfect hockey every game, and it just takes like the most insane sequence of events to get pucks behind their guys. So honestly, if that's how it's going to happen, I can live with that. And at the end of the game, Val sealed it with an empty netter from his own zone. And even when the Avs were under siege, they held on, and they won. This team is different. When the big guys didn't show, the depth did what they needed to do. Wedgwood came up big again. And that's the key, right? Again. And this Avalanche team, we'll talk about it more, just continues to find consistency in its game. The thing that has been missing all year. Now the Avalanche are a force, and they are a force every game. You feel confident that they can win any game in every game. There's now no longer a dwindling question of what Avalanche team is going to step out onto the ice that night. No. There is the defensive juggernaut, the Colorado Avalanche, who, if you blink once, have scored 3 goals on you, and it could come from any of their lines because fuck you.
Oh, I can't add anything to that. Their depth is real. And if people don't believe it, then thank you. Make it easier.
Honestly,
Let the Avs come creeping up on you. Make them an underdog on top of all their talent. See how that works out for you. That's my warning to everyone in the league right now. I'll put you on notice.
I like it when the Avs are underdogs. I like it when people underestimate us. That one's fun. Although I think the league has been put on severe notice after the trade deadline here. Because, well, the Avalanche played the Dallas Stars. If they were to win this game, the Avalanche would pull within 1 point of Dallas, which would be really great. But before the game even started, there was a great ceremony for Nathan MacKinnon prior to the start of the game. It was his 1,000-point ceremony. His parents and fiance were there. Andrew Cogliano presented him with an award. And of course, Gabriel Landeskog, who, as they pointed out, assisted on McKinnon's first goal, stepped out to present him with his golden stick. I think I wrote silver stick, but I heard it's actually a golden stick, even though to me it looks silver, but I digress. Oh, I meant to pause here. Dom, we've forgotten something in the last few episodes. Do you know what it is?
Fun fact?
No. I remember the fun fact. Fuck off.
I don't know. I'm just guessing.
We've forgotten to shout out a certain individual by the name of Rico.
Oh, well, I could have sworn you have. Have I just missed that?
We've missed it. We've missed it quite a few episodes now, I think. So, fuck you, Rico. Yeah. We've missed you a few times, Rico. I don't know why, but lucky you that I've forgotten. But I think it's because we've been talking about the Vegas Golden Knights less. Probably would have gotten there when you actually talked about them in the power rankings, but just wanted to get that one out of the way. Now, obviously,
well, I mean, you could say it again later. Then
you're right. I will.
You can get 2 for 1 and get us caught back up.
You're right. Now, obviously, every game's the biggest game of the season. This game was actually the biggest game of the season, and I mean, they talk about, oh yeah, you know, it didn't really affect us that Mikko was back in the building. Blah, 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 blah. Fuck you. Yes, it does. You can't lie to me that seeing a guy you spent a decade of your playing career playing with, that you hoisted the Stanley Cup with, standing on the other side of the ice in shit green, doesn't make you feel some type of way, right? And my goal going into the game was get the puck to the net as much as possible and keep Mikko away from yours. Blackwood was supposed to start this game, but again, he was still sick. So Scott Wedgwood to the rescue, who for some reason continues to get run over. It wasn't just this game, but other games as well. Every game he played in the stretch, he got ran over at minimum 1 time per game. Yeah, don't really know why he keeps getting run over. Earlier, I brought up the scoring got started by the Stars because the puck was going to get cleared by Devon Taves. Ends up hitting the ref, jumps right to Dallas Stars. Mikko assists on the first play, and man, does that one hurt. He's the secondary, but you're just like, damn. And really, throughout this first period, it was very up and down, back and forth kind of play. And the teams were testing each other out, but suddenly you realize that the Avs are peppering the Stars, and they're peppering, and they're peppering, and they're peppering. And I mean, spoiler alert, for 58 minutes and 40 seconds in regulation, the Avalanche played incredible hockey. I mean, anybody who watched this game could easily say that the Avalanche outplayed the Stars the entire game. And the only reason it went to overtime is because the Avalanche had a sequence of 20 seconds of oopsies where Wedgwood makes an incredible save and Jamie Benn, who was a fuck the entire night, but that's to the surprise of no one, manages to finally get it past when everybody is falling everywhere. Bodies are flying all over the place. He's climbing up the ladder. Good Lord. Any wrestling fans out there, I am not one, but I do like he's climbing up the ladder. Climbing up the ladder. Good God. Yeah. Let me see what else I have to say here. Really, it was great because the top unit ended up getting a double minor because Jamie Benn is a fuck, and it got it back to square. And I knew that it would be a slugfest, fighting for every goal. And I was really hoping that today the big boys would show up in this game because your depth showed up for you last game. And so you need to show up for them this game. Let me see what I want to say here. Wedgwood falls a lot. Apparently Wedgwood falls a lot. Nichushkin breaks the tie. Nichushkin, I think, has 8 points in 6 games. By the way, for anybody who says he's not one of the most critical players on this Avalanche team, you're wrong. And I remember reading something, I don't know from which Avalanche media member, but he tried to say like underlying metric shows that Nichushkin isn't actually that important. You can kiss my ass politely because this dude can't stop scoring. It's stupid how like efficiently he rumbles down the ice and seems to just score. Now, what the Avs, and this is a trend that's been going on this entire time since post-trade deadline, they've been so responsible in front of their own net. They've done a great job blocking shots and clearing it out from when it actually gets to the net front. They did in this game specifically insane work in the D zone. And really, Dom, I'd love your input on this thought. In the playoffs, you don't need to beat Dallas by 10 goals each game. You just need to beat them by 1.
Amen. That's where we talk about somebody's got to lose. Most games are won and lost by 1 or maybe 2 goals if there's like an empty netter. I mean, maybe you see 3 before a team throws up the white flag, but typically these games are going to be close. You don't need to win by a mile. If anything, you need to get a lead and you need to keep the pressure on, but you can't be too aggressive and you can't be too defensive or soft and turtle, as I like to often put it. You have to strike a balance there. And you have to start aggressive, but again, maintain controlled aggression, but not go for an absolute beatdown. You're not trying to jump off the top rope of the or off the ladder to bring that reference back in and completely down a guy. You know, there's many ways to take down a giant. A slingshot will do.
Yeah. But I mean, really, when you think of what a perfect hockey game is, the Avalanche nearly did it with this one. And I mean, Dallas is an amazing team. They'll break into your zone. They will get chances no matter what. It's just how you deal with that. And the Avalanche figured out how. I mean, they genuinely walked all over Dallas. It's not a surprise to me that they ended up winning in overtime. Yes, Dallas tied up the game. But I mean, there was a very real possibility, had the mental lapse not happened, that this game ends in regulation. And I mean, it was shown through every line. And as I mentioned before, the third line is just disgustingly gritty. Evie Ronta outworked 2 Stars players who were basically laying on him. I mean, he gets it up ice to Coyle, who gets checked, who fights the battle, gets it back around to Colton, who also wins a battle to keep it in the zone. It didn't end up in a goal, but I mean, it's creating chaos. You're getting chances. You're winning puck battles. It was one of my favorite shifts of the game. I'll have to look in the highlights to see if they include it, because it's perfect hockey. Even if it doesn't result in the goal, it's guys playing to their absolute maximum. And if this is how you're going to play against Dallas in the playoffs, I see no reason why you should lose the series. Truly.
Agreed. I mean, they can be a team of all-stars, and it doesn't matter. If you are playing at that caliber too, or if, I mean, let's bring Miracle into this for a second. All-star teams fail because they don't have, I'm paraphrasing, they don't have the chemistry, they don't have to work together. They're a group of individuals, not a team. And I'm not trying to say Dallas isn't a team, but right now the Avalanche feel and look like a more cohesive unit. And they are playing their best hockey at the right time. They are the hunters, not the hunted. They have been this team that was stuck at the top of the wild card, locked for a playoff team, but people were letting slide a little bit below the radar, and they can't do that anymore. But think about this. The Avalanche are basically, I have them ranked better than any team in the Pacific. And they're only like 1 point short of being better than any team in the Pacific. So we know the Central's loaded, but they're coming. We didn't expect them to get this close to Dallas in the first place. Can you imagine if they have the advantage of hosting Game 7? I if that happens, I really would feel even more confident in the Avalanche succeeding in that series.
Yeah. So, nonetheless, the Avalanche were, in short, fantastic, excellent, nearly perfect in both zones, outplayed, outshot, everything they could do with Dallas. Brock Nelson is a face-off wizard. He wins it back to McKinnon in overtime, who gets it to Cale Makar, who attacks, breaks through 3 Stars defenders, slips it past Ottinger. Let's go home. The Avalanche won the battle. I thought I'd been talking for a long time. Then I realized it took us a half hour to even get to like actually talking about Avalanche games. Then we deviated quite a bit, so I'm comfortable with that. But I think it's only fair because, Dom, you have some fun segments planned, a couple or, a bit of brooding about the Sharks that we all know and love, and some power rankings to tell us. So, everyone, it's time for In the Tank with Dom.
Well, thank you, Corey. And on behalf of everyone, let's get the brooding out of the way, and get to the fun stuff. But you know what? We can't even start with brooding. I unintentionally covered the Sharks win versus the Chicago Blackhawks last week live while our episode was going on. Little bits and pieces here or there. But, it was, we already covered the fact that it was a 4-2 win, and quite the game for me to enjoy in the background. For all of the MacLeod Celebrini versus Connor Bedard hype, we finally got this here later in the season because Celebrini was injured the previous time. But neither put the puck in the net this game. In fact, Connor Bedard got a 10-minute abusive officials penalty and spent a bunch of time in the box.
Was that his first or second one? Because he got 2 in a row. Like, he got 1 in one game and then 1 in another game.
I honestly don't know. It seems shocking. Apparently, I think this was his first one because he had said, I didn't think I said anything bad, but I guess the official said I did. And so he didn't seem to reference any previous one happening in his interview post-game. So I'm guessing this was the first one. I mean, he's had an angry season. The Blackhawks are struggling.
We want to talk. His team is ass.
Yeah, but look at the Sharks. That team is ass, and they're having fun. They are building chemistry. They are making the most of it. They are embracing the fact that they're professionals. And yes, it sucks to lose, but that doesn't mean you have to be grumpy all the damn time.
Well, let me put it to you this way, Dom. You know when you have a dog, right? And you get your dog a friend. You don't want your dog to be lonely, right? Well, Macklin Celebrini has a friend. He has Will Smith. However, Bedard doesn't have a friend.
That's a good point. Bedard doesn't have a friend, and the youth movement in Chicago really isn't succeeding in playing those extended minutes at the NHL level. Like when I talk about guys, and I'm going to give him his flowers here, Colin Graff, not only Will Eklund, a lot of these guys who are playing up, Klim Kostin is still relatively young, but has been a physical leader on the ice. And you make these new pickups like Ostapchuk. There's a lot of youth that is able to play extended minutes with the team. It is a very, very young roster being fielded by the Sharks night in, night out. And there's a just general chemistry, I want to say aloof, like that feeling of when you don't realize how much adulting sucks until it hits you. Where they're just going through life with blissful ignorance in a sense, in the best way. And I think they also have that just love of the game, just feel grateful, passionate, excited to be at the NHL level and have that opportunity. And so they still have that fresh, wide-eyed dream that it's like, you know what, we're losing this year, but we will get better. I'm having a great time. I'm getting paid to play in the NHL Hockey League, and I have this bright future ahead of me. Let's embrace this moment and just keep taking the lessons as they come and not be butthurt about it, but take them so that then we will be ready when it's our time. And I think that's a growth mindset that is showed by the players and by the coaching, which I don't spend enough time looking at Chicago. I'm pretty sure they fired their coach this year. it all trickles down from that level. When you've got a guy like Mike Greer who's wheeling and dealing, but doing it in the right way and clearly has an understanding of where his players are at in a relationship to some degree. Like, for example, I'm just going to take a quick detour. When Zetterlund was dealt, that hit Eklund so hard. That was his best friend.
I heard about that. Didn't he deny media?
No, it's not that he denied media. Greer understood and did not make him available to the media.
Oh, okay.
Alex Wenberg took his media for him as a fellow Finn. So that there was this camaraderie. Coach Warsofsky put him under his wing and spoke on his behalf and said, "The kid's fine. He's okay. He's a bit frustrated as anyone be, and he's more sad than anything, but he's okay. He could speak here today if we asked him to, but we are all going to rally around him." And this, and what some of the older guys like Wenberg said, this is the unfortunate reality of hockey. But I understand when you're so far away from your country and you have a countryman who you also become naturally close with and have that friendship, it can be all that more crushing the first time, and over time you just become more, not numb to it, but accustomed with just the way the league works. But and that is the way the league works, and I think the Sharks went about it in the best way they possibly could, dealing with that situation. And we see Will Eklund having a good old time out there and still being present with the team now. And he wasn't like, it was one night where he wasn't available for media, and then he was right back at it like with everyone else the next opportunity. So again, just that trickle down effect of the leadership roles and showing that growth mindset, showing that positivity, also allows it to reflect on the ice with the players. Back to this game so I can keep on moving along. I did say that Celebrini and Bedard, neither of them had the puck hit the back of the net, but Celebrini did notch an assist on the first goal of the game from Will Smith, just 3:48 into the first period. It was actually another 2.1 a goal, 1 assist game for Will, who I've been saying it every episode. It feels like I'm a broken record with how the Sharks are losing in the third period sometimes, and I'm a broken record with, I almost said Weckard there. Jesus. With Will Smith getting those goal and an assist in the same game. I need to go look. I don't have the stat pulled, but he's done that a lot in the new year of 2025. Really stepped up his game. If he'd been playing like this all year, he would be in the Calder conversation too. And he's still in there. He's like something like 6th. Or 5th almost, actually, in voting for that. So when I say Michkov's out of it, Will Smith is closer to the Michkov range than I think Michkov actually is to the Celebrini, Hudson, and Wolf fight. So that's my opinion, but that is
how dare you have an opinion? How dare you?
I know, right? But actually, in this game, I already kind of covered it, so I'll just recap. The Sharks jumped out to an early 2-0 lead and never trailed to Chicago, eventually winning 4-2. And this was, and I said I'd give him his flowers, the best game of Colin Graff's young career, scoring 2 goals in the game and nearly getting a hat trick with multiple hit posts and that 1-on-0 rush opportunity that was a great save by Spencer Knight. Literally doubled the rookie's career goal total from 2 to 4 in this game. I mean, he's been flashing everywhere on the ice. He's been a hard worker. It was at the end of the game, his defense that forced the Blackhawks, while with the goalie pulled 6-on-5, to circle back 2 times, waste 40 seconds before they were eventually able to try to cross into the neutral zone. He put his stick in the lane. He didn't hit it, but the pass was adjusted. It was off, and that's when Toffoli was able to win the puck and shoot the empty netter. So no assist registered. Colin Graff was the reason that empty netter was scored. So in my brain, 3-point night for the kid. Absolutely stellar play. Georgiev held strong when Chicago had their moments. 24 saves on 26 shots. Nothing special, but above 900. So for Georgiev, that's a win. And the Sharks got a win. But alas, I already said a lot of this. So Corey, was there anything you wanted to know about this game, or should I keep on moving so we can get to the more exciting stuff?
I actually watched the game along with you, so nothing more than I need to know.
Well, then, as promised, the depression of being a Sharks fan after the rare moments of elation. And that was on Saturday the 15th.
You're so well-spoken, Dom.
Sometimes, and then I say things like Weckard. So,
Weckard!
It goes both ways. But at home, hosting the Washington Capitals, and after just complimenting Georgiev, how about I say this about Georgie? He allowed the Capitals to run out to an early 3-0 lead. 3 goals on 17 shots in the first period. Corey, by comparison, the Sharks had only 3 shots on goal in the same 20 minutes. They allowed 3 goals on 17 shots and only had 3 shots on goal. Eerily reminiscent of a year or two ago when I went to the Avs game here in Denver and they had 7 goals to the Sharks 6 shots. It was brutal then, and this one was brutal as well, but at least it was only a period, and then eventually Washington backed off a bit, you know? To start the second period, how about this line? Georgie made way for Georgie. That is, Alexander Georgiev was pulled and did not start the second period, being replaced by AHL goaltender who had been called up while Askarov was injured and now playing with the CUDA for the Calder Cup in the AHL. But it was AHL goaltender Georgi Romanov to gain some experience. That is Georgi spelled Georgi, another Russian goaltender. So you know he has the potential to be great. Big goaltender, like 6'6". So he definitely has a presence in the net that Georgiev does not have. But yeah, interesting factoid. We're going to get rid of the one Georgie, but maybe the other Georgie will still be the backup next year. Who knows? Fun little, I don't know, play on words. Unfortunately, though, for the young Georgie, his night was not any better. He actually had a worse stat line, allowing 2 goals on 11 shots. And that really tells you how much the Capitals took their foot off the gas. 17 shots on goal in one period, 11 for the remaining 2. So they really knew that they had the game in hand and were just kind of skating their way through it. And they still managed to run up the score even more. But before that could happen, the Calderbrini case had to continue with a goal early in the third period to make it 3-1 from Macklin Celebrini. He flashed his talent, especially with his hands and his footwork. It's just absolutely steal the shutout away from Logan Thompson, who is definitely having a great game in net. I mean, it was really just some awesome deking 1-0 with the goaltender and getting him to go the wrong way so he could put it home high on the glove side super easy. And you know what? I always hype up Calderbrini. I always hype up his individual success and merit. But that was not the most important goal of this game. It might have been the Sharks' only goal, but no, the most important goal of the game came in garbage time when Alex Ovechkin scored to make it 5-1. This goal was career goal number 887 for Ovi. The Great Eight is now 8 goals away from breaking the all-time record of 894 held by the great one, Wayne Gretzky. And let's just get this straight. The Great Eight is because he wears the number 8. Him being the Great Eight does not mean he exceeds the Great One. Corey, I know you know this, but nobody, even when Ovechkin passes Gretzky, because at this point it will happen, nobody is touching. I mean, Gretzky has more assists than most people have career points. Nobody is touching that. At least not for a long time. If anybody's going to touch it, McKinnon is the Apple machine. And maybe he can touch the assist side of that line, maybe, if he has longevity, putting up 100-point plus seasons. But, you know, we have to recognize the greatness in front of us and still recognize that even though it's going to be breaking a record many thought would never be broken, it still does not mean that he is surpassed the great one or conquered the mountaintop.
Yeah, I know, without getting too into the weeds about it, I know there's some contention about Wayne Gretzky as a person at this moment in time, which is fine. You can feel however you want to feel about that. I'm not going to say how I feel about it because we're a hockey podcast, not a politics podcast. But yeah, I think Wayne Gretzky is the great one, not only because of like goals and points, but just how many different records he has. I mean, not only does he hold the record for a lot of different stat lines in hockey, but he has the first, second, third, fourth, fifth. I mean, he owns multiple places on that list. What I was going to say, though, about the Great Eight is it sucks because obviously Cale Makar also wears number 8. So it'll be tough when you ask people, you know, who do you think of? Which player do you think of when you think of the number 8? Who is the best player to ever wear number 8? And man, if Cale Makar becomes the best defenseman of all time, but then you also have Ovi, who has the most goals of all time. Going to be a hard thing to pick going forward. Of course, I'll always pick Cale Makar, but hard thing to pick.
Well, and it'll really come down to if Cale Makar can surpass someone like Bobby Orr. Because if he can, I think he cements himself, because that when we look at the measuring stick, Gretzky is to offense. I mean, and he really is to everybody, but let's be fair. He is to offense. The offensive defenseman is far less seen historically, and it's becoming more of a thing now. But Bobby Orr is the measuring stick for them. So I personally would think that if Makar continues on his trajectory and does catch and pass, then that in my brain would cement him as the one who should be known for the 8. But at this point in time, we do need to recognize and appreciate the great chase.
Yeah,
and yes,
I'm with
that
you.
is spelled GR8.
I did want to say real quick, speaking of what you just said, little mini fun fact. I learned that Ray Bourque is the only defenseman to ever score 400 goals. So be interesting if Cale Makar can ever catch that. I think he can. I absolutely think he can. But
I would agree.
Just a little interesting thing.
No, I think that's a good stat that I never knew, but he certainly can. He certainly could surpass that number. He has the talent. It's just a matter of not luck in a sense, because obviously these are professional athletes and they try to put themselves in the best position possible with their own health regimen. But it really does come down to a bit of luck with health, if he misses time or not. If he is healthy for the length of his career, he should be able to pass that. If he has something occur that I won't even dare say, because I'm not going to put that into the universe, then that it really is not in his hands or any of ours to say at that point. I think all we can say is, with his current trajectory, he could absolutely surpass that number.
More specifically, he scored 410 goals. So just
very nice.
All right, carry on now.
Where was I? Oh, the great chase. So for those who don't know, and this is, I think, why Ovechkin scoring the goal is most important. And yes, it is an insane record-breaking thing if he catches and passes Wayne Gretzky, especially if he does it this season. But Ovechkin has, and this happened a while ago now, he pledged to donate his career goal total each time he scores for the rest of his NHL career. So that means on goal 887, he donated $887. And in fact, that same pledge has been matched by the Monumental Sports and Entertainment Group. So therefore, every time Ovechkin scores for the remainder of his career, a donation of double his goal total will be made to the Victory Over Cancer campaign to continue research in the fight against pediatric cancer. And this, I want to mention this and call this out for the human element. We've talked about it so many times. These are players. These are real people. But this is a whole nother level of humanity in the best way. It is truly an honorable and meaningful way for Ovi to capitalize on his current platform. It really shows his quality of character as a person that goes far beyond his exceptional talent as a player. I mean, even now, many fans of the Washington Capitals and even others around the league will have participated by donating $8 to the foundation, to that charity, for each goal he scores. And Corey, if you have to cut this out because of I don't understand things background, and I don't want to cause any problems, I'm just going to say, well, we at the Captain Avalanche Fancast are not in any way affiliated with the Capitals organization, Hockey Fights Cancer, that's a trademark, or this campaign from the V Foundation. I would honestly and humbly encourage all fans to at least consider donating if you are able to support this cause of combating cancer in children. It's really a great cause in this world of hockey. This chase, this momentous thing is a great opportunity for us to reflect on the bigger issues that play in the world, more than just a game. And I appreciate, I'm proud to see that this is something that Ovechkin and that the league has clearly rallied together with all of these organizations coming together in support of this. And the fact that it is not just for this year, it's not just until he reaches Gretzky's total. No, it's going to be for the rest of his career that he's going to keep doing this, and that this opportunity, this campaign, this whole this general charity is going to continue on so long as he is a player, and that'll be, I hope, as much of a lasting impact that he is remembered for beyond just his goal total.
Why would I cut out you telling people to donate to childhood cancer research?
Oh, I don't know, because I'm mentioning all these other organizations that I don't know if I'm allowed to officially promote or something that they're affiliated with. I don't know.
I mean,
I don't know
you
the
took
legalities.
You took care of saying the part that we're not affiliated with those organizations. We just think it's a good cause, and we think you should go donate. We're poor, so we can't donate at this current moment in time, but that's why we want to grow our audience, so we can start hosting events that hopefully can work towards great causes like those. But no, it is totally fine to tell people to go donate to a good cause, because they don't have to.
I mean, you're right. They don't have to. And I think that's something that the more I become able, I certainly want to participate myself. And I know you feel the same way. And that's where, Corey, I wanted to share this with everyone. And that's why I wanted just to take that honest approach. And I know we got a little sidetracked at the end with the potentials.
It's fine.
Being new to this world of podcasting, I don't know what the rules are on that.
I don't know, dude. You think I know? I don't fucking know.
Well, you handled the back end. But anyway, focusing on more of the topic at hand, I wanted just to open it up to you and see if there's anything you wanted to add, because we talked about this, about heroes and villains in the league previously. And I think this cements Ovechkin into the status as a hero.
No, I think you covered it perfectly. I don't think there's anything additional that I can add to that. I think you hit it right on the head there.
Well, with that in mind, then, I think it is well past time for us to proceed to the power rankings, because I'm going to have some questions for you.
No. Pause.
Some discussion.
Pause.
No?
Okay. You need to do it right, Dom. Come on. You need to give it some gravitas, some gusto. You can't just say, it's time for the power rankings. No. You need to be like,
all right.
Here, I'll give you an example. You need to be like, it's time for the power rankings. Like that.
All right. Let me give this one a go. Now it is time for your St. Patrick's Day power rankings. Who is lucky and who is not?
That's pretty good.
All right.
We'll work on it.
Yeah, I'm not the gravitas. I'm the sarcastic and bad dad joke guy, but I'll work on it, everyone. Corey will help train me up so we can bring some more balance.
It's all good.
Well, I'm going to try to go through some of the lower end of the league here quick. And we'll also notice that at the top end of the league, because I want us to be able to focus our discussion. And I have a couple questions for you in the middle with where we're talking about the playoff cut line when we're talking about the wild card teams.
I'm just going to get the standings pulled up right now, because I already know how this is about to go. So,
well, there you go. Well, as promised, everyone, we do have a change in last place in the power rankings, and you can call me a homer all you want, but the fact is that the San Jose Sharks beat the Chicago Blackhawks in convincing fashion, did not trail at all in that game. The Blackhawks have all bad vibes around their organization. They've lost 5 in a row. They honestly want to be worse than us so they can get that first overall pick and just rub it in our faces. So you know what? At number 32, you have the Chicago Blackhawks. At number 31, you have but I hope a little bit in honor as a secondary team to the Avalanche, your San Jose Sharks, and the one, the only, the Calderbrini, who I've already hyped up earlier tonight. At 30, you have the Nashville Predators also shifting up a slot due to the Blackhawks slide. At 29 and 28, you have the Buffalo Sabres and Seattle Kraken, respectively. Neither team moving from our previous power rankings. They've pretty much locked themselves into a position where they're a few points. They're 7+ or a few points ahead of that bottom 3 teams in the league, but they're really far behind and not truly in it with some of the teams ahead of them, in my opinion. Sliding down 4 spots at 27, you have the Philadelphia Flyers. followed at 26 by the Pittsburgh Penguins. The two Pennsylvania teams have found a way to be really close all throughout the season, although this has flipped a little bit because Philadelphia had moved up a bit near the end of February, and Pittsburgh had actually been falling a little bit, and now Pittsburgh went on a little bit of a run. Both teams lost their last game, so just a bit of an enigma, those two. But they're not like that far away. When you think about the fact that Montreal is in the last playoff spot with 73 points right now, Pittsburgh at 66. Like, if this was if there were 7 more games in the league left in the year than they wouldn't be out of it, but they are. They are out of it at this point.
They're
It's
out of
just,
it.
it's the reality of the situation.
I think that they were completely fucking delusional to think, because apparently they thought they were still in it somehow. And I don't know how you even believe that. Like, yay, you went on a 4-game win streak. You now have 66 points. Good job. But no, it's over. You're done. You're done.
They are done, and I think the only thing that gave them some false sense of hope was a 4-game win streak over 4 teams that I do now believe will all be making the playoffs. So, it was a false sense of hope. Next up, though, basically these bottom 8 teams I believe have all been eliminated. So let's keep going here. At 25, I do have the Anaheim Ducks, and while they flash potential and at points this season, they still have 29 wins. So they're probably going to cross the 30-win threshold. This is not their year, and if anything, I think it's going to hurt the Ducks that they've done well enough to be lower down in the lottery. They're hurting their chance at rebuilding by being just good enough, and it's actually going to make it harder for them to compete for years to come by being mediocre instead of being bad enough where the Sharks and the Blackhawks are to truly and effectively rebuild. So that's my take on it. So I think the Ducks are in what quite possibly the worst possible position for them, where they're just far enough away to not be in the playoff consideration and just far enough away to be 20 points ahead of San Jose and Chicago and just put themselves right in that land of bleh. So we'll see how that plays out in the next few seasons, Corey, but I believe your prediction that the Ducks rebuild will take longer before they are a true contender. I now fully and firmly agree with you on that. At 24, we have the rebuild/retool of the Boston Bruins, and I am saying Boston is eliminated. I'm going to say Detroit, Columbus, New York, both New York teams actually are still in this playoff hunt, and Boston is only 1 point behind, but they've played extra games. They're on a 3-game lose streak. They were sellers at the deadline. They were expected to fall. When they sold at the deadline, they accepted that they were not going to compete this season. So for all intents and purposes, they are eliminated. And the final team I am going to deem eliminated, although some would say, and if you consider compared to like what the scores are in the East, they might not be eliminated, and they would have the furthest outside chance of making it, is the Utah Hockey Club in the West. They currently sit at 71 points in 68 games, so above NHL 500. Good on them. But I think the race in front of them is going to get just too tough, and I'm going to explain why one team is going to be able to pull away from them here in a little bit. Now, let's get to the meat of this. And I just hinted at the fact that Detroit, Columbus, and the New York Islanders are all tied right now at 70 points. But Corey, last time I made the power rankings, I said Detroit was looking like they had locked in that first Eastern wildcard
And then
spot.
they lost like every game after.
Yeah, they have fallen to now, if you think of, they're 4 spots out of the wild card based on the tiebreakers. They've also played one more game than Columbus and the Islanders. I feel bad, and I honestly feel bad for what I'm about to say later for Ottawa and Montreal. Whenever I've hyped up an Eastern team and shat on another one, just flip spaces.
Oh, no.
So I don't know what's going to happen. I'm not going to shit on them, but I'm just like, well, what happened? And this is just the East at its finest, folks, where we think one thing, and then less than a month later, everything is flipped on its head.
Less than a week. These standings change daily.
Well, very true. I'm just going based on where I had the power rankings, and they slid 8 spots to go from 14th and in a great spot to all the way down to 22 in these power rankings. But you're right. The East power rankings change daily. If you are checking daily, they have changed. The second place in the Eastern wildcard has not been the same for consecutive days for the past, I think, 9 days now. It has changed every day. So watching that closely, and it's hard to figure out. Moving up at 21, I do have the Blue Jackets, and I've been really high on the Blue Jackets all year. I've been telling you guys they're that outside dark horse team, but right now they are on a crushing 4-game losing streak that has just dropped them all the way into that 3-way tie with the Islanders and Red Wings. They really were in the best position just 4 or 5 games ago to be in that second wild card. They had a couple point advantage, and that advantage has all gone away and become a deficit. When we talk about in the West, where every game matters, these 4-point games, in the East, they might as well be 6-point games with how close all these teams are, because every point just matters more in this region. I did at 20 promote the Islanders up to 20, Corey, because they are the one on the winning streak. They're the one who has moved up recently, while both the Blue Jackets and the Red Wings have fallen down. And I guess I need to ask, and this is going to be a 2-part question. First, do you agree with the order of those 3 teams? And second, which of those 3 teams do you think still has the best shot of making the playoffs?
I mean, I don't disagree with the order just due to recency bias. So I don't think it's wrong, but I mean, really, they're kind of all in the same tier right now. And I really hope out of any of these that New York is not the team. Islanders or Rangers really are the ones that make it. I would love Detroit, Columbus, Montreal, any of those guys to make it. I hope New York's not in it. I don't think they deserve it. And I mean, New York Islanders, they would just go in and get eliminated round 1. It would not surprise me if they got swept. They're just not a fun team to watch. But then who out of that do I think still has the best shot? Man, I mean, Detroit certainly has a lot of excellent qualities, I think, to still make it, but they have to win. And they seem, as somebody else pointed it out, that they only seem to win and lose in 7-game stretches. So if they win, you can probably count on them to win a few more after that. So it's like, if they can time it right, they still have a chance, because at this point, I think Ottawa's kind of locked up that top wild card. So now it's like, who gets number 2? But I mean, Montreal is on a bit of a run too. Was that part of the question? Was Montreal also part of that grouping or no?
We'll get to Montreal.
Okay.
I think right now, since they hold the last wild card, the teams chasing here between the Islanders, Blue Jackets, and Red Wings. I think you're saying that. It seems like you're saying the Red Wings might have the best chance.
And I think Columbus, they have that luck and that angelic factor and that the intangibles of losing a friend and a teammate, I think, can propel them forward. So, man, it is so hard to say right now, because again, it literally is flipping daily, because you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 teams all within a game of each other, really, to take that last wild card spot.
Yep, and that's what's. I mean, when we talk about the East, folks, we aren't just saying shit to say shit. Like this, no. It is impossible to predict.
I have no idea.
Say this:
it came down to the last game last year. It's going to come down to the last game this year.
Certainly will. And say this: Columbus and Detroit have 2 wins each in the month of March. The Islanders are on a 2-game win streak, have a total of 5 wins in the month of March, including wins over Winnipeg and Florida, a close loss to Edmonton as well in there. So, maybe they're the team that is hot right now, but I agree. If the Islanders make the playoffs, it's everyone's loss when they get swept, and it's just a boring series.
Yeah, it's pretty much a guaranteed fucking win to whoever plays in the first round. And I know playoffs are an unpredictable animal. You can never perfectly predict it. But I can tell you with good amount of hockey knowledge, good amount of confidence, that the Islanders will get their shit kicked in. They just don't have the tools necessary to make it far. It isn't like the Panthers on their miracle run. That Panthers team still had a lot of weapons on their roster. It was not a surprise that they went as far as they did, but the Islanders team just don't have the tangibles or the intangibles. If they make it, woo, but I'd rather they don't.
Yeah, well, and when you're talking about rather not having New York teams there, unfortunately, Corey, here, well, or maybe it's fortunately that they're not in the top 16. I do have the New York Rangers at 19.
I don't think it's unfair.
And when I last brought this, I said surprisingly back in the hunt, but is it too little too late? And that question, is it too little too late,
Ah,
still rings
I
true
don't
because
know.
they are 1 point behind Montreal, but the Canadiens have 2 games in hand. The Rangers play Toronto next at home, but then they get a run where they get to host Vancouver and then go on their California road trip at LA, Anaheim, and San Jose. So you would think of those next 4 games, it would not be, if they want to make the playoffs, they need to win at least 3. But they can certainly win 2 if you consider the games at Anaheim and at San Jose as certainly winnable games for a team like the Rangers, who is in the hunt. So is it fair to say, like, even though they've played 2 more games and only have a 2-point advantage, that they do seem to have a leg up on those other 3 teams we just talked about?
You forget an important factor here, Dom, and it's that at the end of the season, at the point that we are in now in the stretch run, the teams that are out of it, even if it's not official, love to play spoiler and play some of their best hockey. All 32 teams love to play some of their best hockey in the stretch run. So it would honestly be the funniest thing of all time if the Rangers managed to lose all 3 of the California games. I could absolutely see it happening because no one's just going to willingly give up a game just because your team needs the points. These guys still have pride, and some of them have a job to play for. So they're going to play as hard as they can. So, especially at this point in the season, there are no given wins.
Absolutely. And, New York is on a 2-game losing streak, has some opportunities in front of them. That doesn't mean they'll capitalize. They're going coast to coast. That's hard to do. And, like I said, games in hand matter almost more than points. When the Islanders and Columbus are 1 win behind them with 2 games in hand, Montreal is half or 1 point, half a game ahead with 2 games in hand. Those games start to matter more and more just because you have less opportunities to win points. And so that's kind of where I struggled of whether or not the Rangers should be ahead of that pack of 3 or mixed in there or even behind them despite having more points. And that's where I wanted to maybe get your insight, because they're all in such a tight grouping together of in the hunt, but on the outside looking in and need to go on a run.
Man.
I'm actually going to pivot to the West for 18 and 17. And I think you'd probably be able to guess which teams are at 18 and 17. So why not you just take a guess for me?
Oh God.
West wild card.
Yeah, that's St. Louis and Calgary.
Well, you're 50% right. At 18, I have the Calgary Flames currently sitting at 73 points in 67 games. So 1 game in hand behind Vancouver and 2 points behind. At number 17, despite holding the last wildcard spot, I actually have the Vancouver Canucks.
Okay.
Every game right now, I said previously, every game matters in their battle with Calgary for the final wild card. And I also said last time that I claimed when you presented these power rankings on my behalf that the Blues were out of playoff contention.
I guess not.
I could not have been more wrong, and I did some looking into this. St. Louis has 2 more wins than Vancouver and are tied on points right now because of Vancouver's additional OT losses. St. Louis has a far easier strength of schedule upcoming than either Vancouver or Calgary.
Oh boy.
They do play Vancouver in their next game here tomorrow when you listen to this podcast at 5:30 p.m. But after Vancouver, they host Chicago, host Nashville, who they just beat the crap out of in Nashville, host Montreal, and then go to Nashville again. Then they do play the Avalanche. I don't expect that to go well for them. But then they get to host Detroit, big game, another team on the bubble, could very easily win. Then they host Pittsburgh. That is a string of very winnable games where St. Louis could start to separate themselves from either Vancouver or Calgary. Not to mention they finished the season at Seattle and at home versus Utah. Again, winnable games against eliminated teams. I'm I thought St. Louis was out of it, but they're on a 3-game win streak. They have experience, and I just look at what the Vancouver Canucks are playing. They are starting an absolutely long, it's an arduous road trip. So they're gonna play in St. Louis, then at the Rangers who need every win, then at New Jersey, then at the Islanders who need every win, then at Columbus who needs every win, then at Winnipeg before they finally get to have a bit of relief and host Seattle and Anaheim. Then they have to play Vegas, Dallas, Colorado, and Minnesota in a row and finish the season again with Vegas after getting one game in there against San Jose, who are playing to get to 20 wins and spoiler. That schedule
That
in the
is,
state of Vancouver right now, I
oh my
don't think they'll be able to make it.
dude, that is one of the shittiest schedules I have ever heard. Because you see it now, right? Is a lot of teams, when they're playing each other, it looks like a playoff game. It looks like a playoff precursor. Not quite to the same level, but I mean, it's just about there. The atmospheres are there and the desperation is there. People, teams, players, they want this. And obviously, Vancouver is going to be playing desperation hockey all the same, but when you're reading off those opponents, so are they. So it just comes down to who wants it more and who has the staff better equipped for it. And oh man, they got Quinn Hughes back, but I don't know if that's going to be enough.
Well, and just really quickly, so we can see this from a Calgary perspective, their April is a little bit easier, but I mean, March at New Jersey, at the Islanders, they host Seattle, host Dallas, at Edmonton, at Colorado. That's a tough end to March, and it's been a tough March where they only have
Wait,
3
do we play
wins, a lot of
Calgary
close games.
again?
Yep, you host Calgary to end the month. But this is where
Oh, shit,
they
you're
have
right.
some hope. The Flames have some hope in April because they get at Utah versus Anaheim, at San Jose, at Anaheim, and versus San Jose. So they have 5 hypothetically very winnable games. However, they also have to play twice versus Vegas, versus Minnesota, and finish the season at LA. And LA is going to be playing for seeding at that point. So that those last 2 games versus Vegas and at LA are not going to be gimmies by any means, like you said. So Calgary, I think, even though I have them ranked behind Vancouver for their direct head-to-head recency bias loss and the fact that Vancouver holds the spot right now. So those 2 combined to give Vancouver the tiebreaker for 17 versus 18. I would say Calgary has better odds to snag that last wildcard spot, but I really think the Blues have an unsuspected advantage, assuming that they continue to win winnable games.
Not to mention with the Blues, to his credit, as much as I don't like him, Jordan Bennington's been hot since the Four Nations break. I mean, he came back from winning that tournament and bro was like, I can beat anything. And he's played great for them.
It really did rejuvenate him to his old self
Yeah.
from the Blues Cup run.
I really don't think, besides that the Blues are equipped to go super far in the playoffs. But I think they'll come in, they'll maybe push a first round series to 6 games. They'll have a good time, but probably won't make it very far. What's hilarious, Dom, is a quick little tidbit here. Being currently outside a playoff spot, the Blues are actively selling playoff tickets.
And why shouldn't they?
That's some high tier confidence right there.
Same points as Vancouver, 2 more wins, playing the hotter team right now, and it matters when you're getting hot here at the end of the season.
Yeah.
They're playing their best hockey at the right time. Their goaltender has found the younger version of himself, and they have the easier strength of schedule by far for the stretch run. They should be. Maybe not selling playoff tickets. I don't know if I'm not going to say whether they should or shouldn't, but they should have confidence. And so I know I'm skipping a team here. I actually have St. Louis as 15 in the power rankings.
All right, I'm with it.
to fill in that sandwich. Oh, and by the way, St. Louis moves up 10 spots to lead all teams in the change since last power rankings. Much deserved. And like I said, this is factoring in all past things and trying to count the whole season, not just the recency bias, but also a little bit of future projection here of the potential. So I will admit to that. At 16, sandwich between these Western playoff contenders are the Montreal Canadiens, who they are now the ones who hold the second Eastern wild card. They have a point in hand on the Rangers, 3 points in hand on the Islanders, Columbus, and Detroit. And they also have, in addition, 2 games in hand on the Rangers and 1 on Detroit. So basically they're in the driver's seat right now. This is how the East goes. Whoever, when they have that type of situation where you've played the same number of games and have more points, or even if you've played fewer games, you control your own destiny, right? Corey, wouldn't you agree? All you have to do is not lose. You can only blame yourself for losing for losing your spot. People can't just pass you because they can't majestically play more games than you because you've played the same number of games.
Yeah, sure.
I right now this was a tough one for me where to rank them because somebody has to be there at the bottom of the 16 teams. I went with Montreal. I don't want to put them in a bad place like I did with Detroit, but
I think that's fair.
I'm cautiously optimistic, I would say.
We'll see.
Another team I'm cautiously optimistic about, and I wonder if Montreal will be able to catch at 14, are the Ottawa Senators. So they've turned it around. They've moved up 4 spots since my last power rankings when they were sitting outside of the playoff consideration altogether. Now they actually hold a 4-point lead in that playoff race, but every time I go to say an Eastern wildcard team is comfortable, they seem to just start to flounder. So I'm not going to say that. They should not feel comfortable. I mean, is it just me, Corey, or has Ottawa been a very inconsistent team?
Yes, but they've also really found their stride to kind of break out of what people have called the Bermuda Triangle of mid. Like, yes, they had their ups and downs, but now they've really kind of found it at the right time, and I think that's helped them lock in that first wild card spot, I hesitantly say. I mean, I think unless they completely fall apart here, which, I mean, I hope they lose tomorrow against us, because I'd like to win, especially after losing tonight. But I think they're fine. I really do. I think they have the right systems in place to win, because from hockey psychology, thank you as always, they play a Florida style system, which of course they would. They also have the other Tkachuk brothers, so why wouldn't they? I think they'll be fine. I really do. I think they got it. I think they'll be fine.
My only concern, they play Columbus 3 times in the remaining part of the season. They also play Florida, Tampa Bay. They do play Montreal after just losing to them a night ago. And they play at New Jersey and Detroit. So there are a lot of teams in that. They pretty much play
all the teams that need to beat them to get into the wild card spot. Got it.
Yep. So again, they hold serve. They can either win their way or lose their way out of the playoffs, but they control their own destiny, much like the Canadiens, but are in a slightly better spot, and that's why we see them in a better spot on the power rankings.
All right. There you go. I'm with it, though.
At 13, I have the New Jersey Devils, and I've said with their injuries and everything, I'm just not inspired by this New Jersey team right now, and I really think they're going to get their doors blown off by Carolina in the first round. Honestly, am I being unfair to New Jersey, Corey?
No, and I feel so unbelievably bad for them. You lose your top guy in Jack Hughes. You lose Dougie Hamilton. We've talked about it already. They can still win hockey games. Don't get me wrong. They are a good team. I just don't think they can do it now.
Oh, they certainly can win hockey games. They have 37 wins on the season. And we'll get to Carolina because they were tied for the second biggest riser, I believe, with my change in the rankings. They were actually in a 3-way tie for that, along with the Canadiens and the Islanders all moving up 6 spots. But the Carolina Hurricanes, would you believe it if I told you the Canes have won 7 in a row since losing to Edmonton on March 1st, they have not lost a game, including convincing wins over Winnipeg and Tampa Bay.
I'm disturbed.
Like, we thought Carolina was not going to be in the hunt this year, and they're building for the future, and then they just rattle off 7 wins, and they're 12 points behind Washington. New Jersey is well ahead of the Rangers. Carolina and New Jersey are going to play each other just like Dallas and Colorado are going to play each other. And Carolina is going to wipe the floor with New Jersey. And I'm with you. I feel bad. It's bad luck. It's that luck thing I talked about earlier with Cale Makar. There's some things you can and can't control. But considering the time, I'm going to keep us moving along here.
Yeah.
And let's get to the classic Western mix that I don't think you'll be surprised. Between 12 through 9, I have at 12 the Los Angeles Kings, at 11 the Minnesota Wild, at 10 the Vegas Golden Knights, and at 9, oh, by the way, love you, Rico, but fuck you, Rico. At 9, the Edmonton Oilers. Currently, the Edmonton Oilers, after their losing streak, they're on a 3-game win streak, while Vegas is on a 2-game losing streak. So even though Vegas is still technically ahead of Edmonton, that is why they are inverted here on the rankings. LA is certainly still in this with games in hand and just a few points behind. 5 points separates those 3 teams in the West. And Minnesota is at 83, just right there in the middle of them. And as a wild card, Minnesota, if Edmonton or Vegas wins, I don't know. Do you want to win? Would you rather, if you're Edmonton and Vegas, would you rather play LA or Minnesota?
Minnesota. Final answer.
Okay. So you want to win the Pacific. And so basically at 9 and 10, I have the 2 teams competing for the Pacific first seed. And then at 11 and 12, I have what will effectively be the 3-4 in that quadrant of the playoffs. I'm not going to try and predict this. Though in a sense, I almost hope either, well, really, I don't want Edmonton to succeed, but I kind of hope Edmonton gets ahead of Vegas so we can get a non-Edmonton LA series.
Yeah, I think we're all hoping for that. Without dwelling on it too much, though, disagreement, kick LA higher, kick Edmonton lower. Yeah, where I'm at.
Fair enough. Yeah, you know what? LA should win the whole Pacific and shift both of them down and force them to play each other. That would be ideal. You're right. That's ideal.
No, I'm talking about in the rankings. I disagree with your rankings. I think LA should be higher.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, I'm down. Like, that's 12 versus 9. Like, I was struggling here with this pod, so.
I mean, they're all kind of in the same realm right now, but I think LA should be higher. I think they've been better.
Well, moving from the pod that is the Pacific, let's move to the Atlantic, where at 8, I currently have the Tampa Bay Lightning. At 7, I have the Toronto Maple Leafs. And at 6, I have the Florida Panthers. Now, mind you, this was made prior to the Avalanche Leafs game.
Doesn't matter. Switch
tonight.
Tampa and Toronto. I think Tampa's been better.
All right. So Tampa, we can call Tampa the 7 and Toronto the 8.
Yeah.
Have you know, the Colorado Avalanche, I said it last time, I genuinely believe that now they have proven to be within the top 5 teams in the league. So
Agreed.
I have Colorado at 5.
Agreed. They should be higher. You know, they should be higher, Dom.
Going into tonight, the Avs and Panthers have the exact same 41, 24, and 3 record.
Weird.
And now Toronto also has a 41, 24, and 3 record after the win over the Avalanche. So just a unique nugget that they all actually, I mean, obviously Colorado had to take the loss at 25 today, but still interesting how really tightly matched on record, like the exact same record those teams have. Just thought that was an interesting factoid, and I think that also skewed my decision to have Toronto at 7 instead of Tampa. But I agree, Tampa looks scarier to me, and they're 2 points behind. Like, Florida and Toronto have both played 68 games. They both have 85 points. They are both 41, 24, and 3. Tampa Bay has played 67 games, is on a 2-game win streak, and is at 83 points. We could have a 3-way tie in the Atlantic with 3 teams at 85 points through 68 games. Stay tuned, everyone. That entire area, that region is all up for grabs. Not to mention, if one of them starts to slip, Ottawa could be there to pick up the pieces at 77. I'm not saying they will, but they could be. All it takes is one bad losing streak. At 4, I did shift the Canes up. Like I said, that 7-game winning streak defied all of my expectations. They've really established themselves as a team going on to the second round in the playoffs in my mind, and have moved ahead on points of everyone in the Atlantic to put themselves second in the entire East, while also having played less games. So need to put the respect where it is due for the Canes. At 3, not moving at all, I do have Dallas.
Boo,
they currently sit at 89 points in 67 games. They didn't do anything to allow me to shift them down.
Yeah, they lost to Colorado. They lost. They got outworked in every possible way. Colorado's been better than Dallas post-trade deadline. The Avalanche went on a 6-game win streak at home. That have never happened in franchise history. They're kicking ass. I don't care that the Stars have a fucking 8-game home win streak. Colorado. Yeah. All right. Carry on. Sorry.
Well, we could debate that one plenty, but I agree. I think
we don't have time.
I think if these teams meet, Colorado is the favorite. But as far as power rankings go, anyway, you're right. They aren't going to be the betting favorite. They will be the favorite in our hearts.
That's right.
Anyway, at 2, actually swapping spots with the Capitals. At 2 is the Winnipeg Jets, and at 1 are the Washington Capitals. That is actually because Washington currently sits as your President's Trophy leaders at 98 points in 68 games as compared to 69 for Winnipeg. So they have taken away that top slot. And thank you, everyone, for staying with us late. I know this episode ran long. Thank you for coming to this month's edition of the Power Rankings. Get in those comments and tell me how wrong I am.
Yeah, that's a contentious one with the Caps and the Jets. Your 3 players. Oh, sorry. Thank you, Dom. I really appreciated those Power Rankings. I hope you didn't feel rushed because they were great.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry we ran so long to you and to everyone. I didn't feel rushed to me. I definitely was trying to get us going there as well, to not take too much time.
You rolled. Your 3 players of the week are Parker Kelly, Cale Makar, and Scott Wedgwood. Now, for your fun fact, I'll be totally honest, everyone. Didn't have time to prepare it. I've been very bad with the fun facts recently, but I went ahead and did something goofy. I want everybody to know this is the first time I have used AI in this podcast. We do not use AI in our podcast, but I did ask ChatGPT, just for shits and giggles, what it would say. I said, can you give me 2 hockey fun facts? 1 fact about hockey or the NHL in general, and 1 fact about the Colorado Avalanche. Well, I, of course, fact-checked these to make sure it wasn't lying to me, but here's what it gave me. For the hockey fun fact, it told me, and some of you may know this, the fastest slap shot ever recorded in the NHL was clocked at 108.8 miles per hour by, who was it, Dom?
Zdeno Chara.
That's right. During the 2012 NHL All-Star competition, a 6'9" defenseman holds the record for the hardest shot in league history, but I knew that was not the hardest shot ever. Do you happen to know where the hardest shot ever actually happened?
You got me there.
It was set by Martin Ferk at the 2020 AHL All-Star competition. He did a shot at 109.2 miles per hour. So he broke Zdeno Chara's record. So pretty cool stuff.
Wow, yeah. Respect.
The Colorado Avalanche fun fact it gave to me was the Avalanche are the only team in NHL history to win the Stanley Cup in their first season after relocating when the franchise moved from Quebec to Colorado in 1995. They won the Cup that same season by sweeping the Florida Panthers in the final. The Colorado Avalanche are also the only, this is my addition to that, the Colorado Avalanche are also the only NHL team to be perfect in any Stanley Cup final. They are undefeated in the Stanley Cup final. So there you go, everyone.
Well, thank you for that fun fact, Corey.
No, Dom, don't thank me. Thank ChatGPT. I just made the facts better because, of course, I can't just let ChatGPT take all the thunder. I just took what it said and made it better.
Well, that you did.
Well, everyone, the clock is counting down to the final horn. We really appreciate you taking the time to listen to this episode of the Captain Avalanche Fancast. Did you know there is a comment section where you can leave your thoughts and questions? If you're not putting stuff in the comments sections, I'm going to come to your house and beat you up. Leave stuff in the comments section. We told you to do it, now die. There's also a unique poll for you to interact with every episode. The best thing you can do if you like what we're doing here is to follow us on whatever platform you're using and share this podcast everywhere you can, whether that's with your mouse or your mouth. Let our follower count go up. Come on, everybody. We want to donate to charity. Hit the follow button. I'm Captain Avalanche Corey.
And this is Dom from the Tank telling you to like, subscribe, and most importantly, comment.
Yeah, that's right, baby. Check out our new episode. What? Check out our new episodes every week. Thanks, everyone.